welcome to this mid-season review of the EFL Championship. I'm your host, Karl, as usual. We've got some lovely guests on joining us today as well, but we are going to talk about, since I've been off briefly due to having a mid-season, a bit of a mid-break, before we get back on live officially for the next games of the championship next weekend. But as I was joining me as usual, I've got the usual suspects. I've got Mike himself, and also Annie. Gentlemen, how you doing?
Not too bad, mate. How are you getting on?
Not too bad at all. Annie?
Yeah, I'm good.
Right, good. Now we've got a special guest. Formally,
Prepare for a shock, ladies and gentlemen.
it is a shock. It is a shock. And I think I have to play some of the drum rolls for this one as well, because I am a bit smart. Joining us is former Mr. Ant himself. Ant, how you doing? Finally, I've got you on after months of you being aware of a social life, and you got a social life now since you got promoted. How the devil are you?
I'm good, mate. It's good to be talking to you all again. The thing is, it's my Sundays now, and I was saying this to you before we went live. It just feels like Leicester play on every single Sunday now. She's
You were telling us, yeah.
It just feels like as soon as you're in the Premier League, whenever the Big Six can play the games is when you play. So,
Fair.
Pretty much. No, you're not wrong, unfortunately.
No, that's true. Yeah. It's not true at all. Especially if you're lucky you're not part of a new TV deal in the league below, where one team plays mostly Sundays now. So,
But it's all right. And can have his experience of playing championship teams again when Leicester get drawn away at Coventry in the FA Cup or something.
I'm all for it.
I knew you would be.
I know.
Sign us up.
I mean, we had Sunderland Newcastle last year, so we'll have Coventry Leicester, and we'll have Bristol Rovers Bristol City. How's that? Everybody else can have their anxiety.
As long as that's the derby we get, because I don't want to play Forest again. If we get Forest, I think I might pack it in.
I don't know who looked more reluctant there, Karl. Gant there at the thought of playing Forest, or Annie at the thought of playing Bristol Rovers.
That's true, yeah.
Annie, you should have nothing to lose. You're a miles better team.
No, but they're just so bad. We'll lose. That's the problem.
Hang on, I thought you lot were meant to be mint now.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Let me guess. It's like, yeah, but that goes out the window on Derby Day.
yeah, practically that. Yeah, just about. Yep.
Hey, look on the bright. At least if you did lose them, you wouldn't lose to Joey Barton, I suppose.
That is a good point, actually. Yeah.
No comment.
Annie, don't worry. We've lost to his Fleetwood Town side before, so we have lost to Joey Barton.
We haven't. Leeds hasn't yet. So
yes, because you've not been crap enough to fall into League One. That's why.
You know what's worse is we drew with them 0-0 when we played them in the FA Cup.
And let me guess, did he pull the, Leicester have got all that money, and I think, they're celebrating a draw like they've just won the World Cup. If I had their team, I'd have them winning the Premier League and all that bollocks.
Trying to go with it was a fantastic result, this, that, and the other. We beat them 4-0 in the replay.
Oh, that's all right, then that's maybe a bit
better. Very quickly put him very quiet.
Conveniently.
Yeah, he's not always quiet when he's on social media. He's quiet when he put a mic in front of his face, but on social media, he just go all over the place.
His mouth's ahead. It's pretty much his typing abilities ahead of his brain, isn't it?
Like Elon Musk, for example.
Oh God!
And he's looking like, I did not expect this waffle on before we even start talking about the championship.
I come on to the show and it just takes a massive turn for the worst of just controversial opinions from the start.
Well, see, and to be fair, when we do stuff, it's not much of a surprise because we've talked to each other quite regularly anyway. But the other two, it's quite a shock.
So, just going off topic very quickly before we start the championship, whilst you're on the topic of Elon Musk.
Oh God, no.
No.
Oh
no. Forget that.
Right, no, move on.
We need to do one thing and one thing only, is to look at the first probably 13 games of the championship and see where games sets our teams around. So let us get on with that, actually. And do you know what? Looking at the tables and look at the table itself, I was not expecting a team to be top of the table like Sunderland to start like Michael. And I have to say, well, let's assess Sunderland. And How do you think your season? How do you think your first couple of games have been? It's been a surprise.
Am I guessing we're doing this in table order, first down to 24th?
Yeah.
Okay. All right then, that's fair enough. How do I assess it? Well, I mean, to be honest, obviously, if I had to give it a rating out of 10, for example, it would probably be a strong 9. You could maybe even go towards 9.5. The only thing that's stopping it being a 10 really is, as Ant's probably going to hate us for, throwing a 2-0 lead away against Coventry. Which, by the way, I have decided we're never allowed to beat Coventry. So, Ant, don't put any faith in Sunderland when we play Coventry. We're never able to beat them.
Don't worry. Even if you don't get promoted this year, you won't be playing them again next season because they'll be in League One.
Who do you trust to beat Coventry then? Ourselves? Me? Leeds?
Well, I mean, considering you lot dismantled them 3-0, yeah, probably.
Yeah. By the look of the table this year, pretty much anyone who plays them.
Has Bristol City played Coventry yet?
Yeah.
No, didn't you? Oh, you drew against them as well, didn't you? Yeah. Well, okay then. But anyway, But aside from that result and the late defeats against Watford and Plymouth, which we really shouldn't. Well, Plymouth would deserve to lose, but Watford we certainly shouldn't have lost. Other than that, you can't really complain with how we've started. I mean, we're above 2 points per game and top going into 3 successive international breaks. Obviously, I know Sheffield United with the points deduction would have been top, so it's great. Whether we're still here is a big question mark, obviously, going forward. It also, because obviously Mundell got injured against Coventry, Alan Brown did. So now all of a sudden our squad's looking a bit stretched and a bit threadbare. And against Millwall, we're also without Trey Hume, Patrick Roberts and Joe Bellingham. So I'd snap your hand off for a point at Millwall, put it that way. I think we'll probably get beat with all of the squad issues we've got. But having said that, I think our aim now is just to try and keep ourselves in the mix for automatics, even if we're not in the top 2, but say 3-4 points off it going into the January window, and then start to really get some good quality loan deals through the door, and maybe start to really try and push ourselves, because I think this is our best chance to go up for God knows how long. And if say we don't go up, I think next year whoever comes down the league's probably going to be much tougher at the top. So yeah, I think this is a massive opportunity. But if I had to put, I think I would say. You've got likes of Wilson Isidore scoring great volleys. Like, I'm really impressed with the signing of him. Romain Mundell stepped in to replace Jack Clark really well, which I didn't expect at the start of the season. Dennis Serkin, I still maintain, is one of the best left backs in the division if he can stay fit. Dan Neil.
Can we take him off here?
I'll tell you what, right? If you give us a buyback clause or something, that'll be all right.
Depends.
You've got Junior Firpo, man. You don't need him. You're fine.
Yeah, he's in his last year of his contract.
Yeah, well, go and find someone else. Go and get Newcastle's left back.
Oh yeah, Lewis Hall, who's now an England senior. That's a good choice.
Well, if we go up, why not? I just want them to be weakened. But anyway, well, all right then. Who else is good? Who else have got great left backs in the Championship then?
Can I tempt you in a Luke Thomas? I mean,
we tried to get him last season. We tried to get him last season before he went to Sheffield United, and look how that happened.
I'll tell you what, right? Here's the saying. You know, in journalism, they say a picture equals 1,000 words. Now, just screenshot Annie's face when he goes like that.
Yeah.
And then see what 1,000 words are going through his head right now, or what 1,000 words you can apply to what he said there. Like Luke Thomas and Coventry City.
Luke Thomas is one of those. A few years ago, he looked like he was going to be decent, but. And I know this from a fair few people that he's always out in Leicester, just always on nights out. It's like
no wonder he's not making it very far. Then I suppose
you've got the opportunity of a lifetime, living people's dreams, and you're always out on the lash, mate.
Yeah, well, no wonder you're not going to be in the first team. But to get back, yeah, I mean, you've also got like Chris Meffam from Bournemouth. I think has been one of the astute signings of the season for us. Dan Neil, Joe Bellingham, Chris Rigg. We've got Trey Hume at right back. We've got a lot of really good, talented players. My main perspective on it, so I think there's been a lot of great performers, basically. Luke O'Nien, who I think obviously we signed in League One. I think he's now a competent top-end Championship defender, I would say. So I think, like I said, I would say a good 9 out of 10. Obviously, we need to get a bit of depth in the January window. I think a right back wouldn't go amiss to cover for Trey Hume or to compete with him. If there's links about Jordan Henderson, granted, that could be very far-fetched. I don't know. But if there's a chance of that happening, I would do it. And I think probably another right winger, because I like Patrick Roberts, but his numbers, we need someone I think who could produce numbers a bit more regularly for my liking. Because Patrick Roberts is brilliant until he gets to the final third, and then all of a sudden he has a big brain fart and doesn't know what to do. So I would say that there's still a long way to go. Obviously, look, it could look quite likely that the top four at the minute will probably be Sunderland, Sheffield United, Leeds, Burnley in no particular order, unless West Brom and those below have a really massive spike in terms of surging up the table. But I think we're enough. I don't know what you guys think. I think we've shown enough that we're going to be top six candidates now at the very least. I would even go as far to say, unless something goes badly, disastrously wrong, we should be finished. Not should, that's the wrong word. I would be fuming if we didn't finish in the playoffs at the very least, given the start we've had. Top two depends on January, and it depends on how lucky we get with suspensions and injuries. I'll say this now, because I know we'll talk about Leeds a bit later on, but in my opinion, I think Leeds will win the league. Carl's heard me, this is not new, Carl's heard me say this about probably 100 times. I think Leeds will show to be the best team over the course of the season, and if Sunderland can grab second, I will be absolutely buzzing with that. I don't really give two hoots about winning the division. I just want to get automatic promotion if we can, because this is our best chance to do it.
Listen, you are, as I said, as any of the Leeds fans on social media, you are this year's Ipswich Town. There's no doubt about that.
Which, if we finish where they did, I will snap your hand off for that.
I know you would, and I'll come to Sunderland physically to say that.
Well, all right, then. Well, we can do it. If Leeds and Sunderland get top two, we can do a nice end of season review and go, oh, we're both happy. Now let's just see who's in the playoffs. Watch Bristol City win them.
And then I'll come down to Sunderland and meet you in the pub. We'll just have a drink and two to see how the other teams do in the playoffs. So.
Yeah, pretty much.
Mate, if you're staying up as well.
That's it. If we both go up and you stay up, then let's have the three of us have a night out or something, or get together next season.
Yeah, we will.
You know, I can see it a mile off though. You two going up and us going down.
I've told you before. Us two go up, automatically. Bristol City win the playoffs, and you get relegated, and then all of a sudden the tables are reversed.
Yeah.
Oh fuck.
Yeah, exactly.
See, Annie, you'd be brilliant for you. You get your nice big day out at Wembley and you win the richest game in football.
But on a negative, you have to go to Wembley, and it's an absolute
like we did last season, which we had put roll for.
Well, true. Our record in the playoffs isn't much better, to be fair.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, no. Overall for Sunderland, there's not much to complain about. If you're at the 2 points per game mark across the whole season, you've got a great chance of automatic promotion. It's just doing it that's the difficult bit. If you guys have any thoughts, then say it. But from my perspective, great to be where we are. I'll come back to us in January and we'll see if we're still around where we are.
Absolutely. Annie or Anne, who wants to go first?
I think I talked to you before the season, Michael, didn't I? And you said if you were within striking distance of the top two, you'd be happy. And it's like, the thing is, I think over the festive period, you'll learn a lot because you'll play games, you'll have a lot of 3-week games. I think if you're still within like that top two, or even just within striking distance of it there, I think you'll be playoffs. I think playoffs, I don't want to say are confirmed because it's too early in the season for that. But if you don't get playoffs from here, something has significantly gone wrong.
Unless we finish automatics. But I know what you mean. If we don't finish at least in the top six, then I would consider that a massive failure from this point. And I do think we will be playoffs at the very minimum. If we don't make top two, then I would fancy us to finish between third and sixth, or I'd like to think we would, unless something goes really wrong. Which, considering I've watched us go relegated back-to-back and be in League One for 4 years, I am well aware that disastrous things can happen. So I'm not going to count my chickens yet.
You and I and Ant, mate, because we've been through it. Bristol City used to it because I was in the lower leagues. Sorry, Andy, no disrespect, but our three big teams were not supposed to be in that third tier in the first place for that long.
That sounds so condescending, Dan.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Out of the four of us, who's won the most Papa John's trophy here?
That's not the point. You can't defend it.
Excuse me, don't you diss our Papa John's trophy win 3 years ago under Lee Johnson, man. Come on. Who's won it most recently out of the four? Well, I mean, Annie will probably know as well. You know how horrid League One is, don't you? I think you've experienced it yourself. It's a turgid division, isn't it?
Yeah,
he's going to go.
Rovers
are in it, so yeah, it is pretty turgid.
The quality's got better over recent years, but yeah, it's still a turgid division.
My thing is, I quite enjoyed League One when we were in it, but and I don't know if you remember this, Karl, because we were both going for the title at the same time.
Yeah.
The novelty, I think, would have very quickly worn off on me if we weren't in it for one season. and going for the title. I think if
I
we
can confirm that. After about 9 months, it got very tedious, and I spent the next 3 years, football-wise, being nearly clinically depressed, watching us play Fleetwood and Accrington Stanley
it
on a
was.
regular basis.
it's one of those. It's the novelty wears off very quickly.
Yeah, especially with us, we started at minus 15 points after the administration. We didn't think we would get. We just missed out on the top two quite easily. Even though we did well with the points in the space of 10, 12 games, quite well. We did quite well, but yeah, those 2 years, those 2.5 years, it's just like right.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Didn't you have Simon Grayson in League One? Or have I got that wrong?
Yeah.
Oh God, what? Well, I don't know whether you have any different feelings to me, but I think he's one of the worst managers we've ever had.
Maybe for us, it was mixed. Even though the one thing I'll never forget from him, he's getting that win at Old Trafford in the FA Cup. So
Fair
that's
enough.
all I care about.
Fair enough.
To beat our rivals, to shut them up, was actually tremendous. So yeah.
Oh well, that's fair enough.
Imagine the goal from Beckford where he didn't need to hit it so high. Just have to let it roll in, and and celebrating for the Stretford end to piss off the 70,000 plus Friday night.
That's just Jermaine Beckford in a nutshell, though, isn't it?
I know.
But yeah, to finish the point, yeah, if we're still keeping this, is what we joked before on air, right? If you're looking at the top two, what we need, I think Karl will agree with me on this. What we both need is for Scott Parker to be crap, but not crap enough to get sacked. So he needs to win the odd game to keep Burnley in the top 6, so they don't get rid of him. But then they fall further away from the top 2, and then hopefully it's just between us two and Sheffield United for top 2.
Yeah.
And then hopefully Chris Wilder has a big mental breakdown, and then they start falling further behind, and then us two can pull clear. That might happen with you guys, but probably not with us.
If you want to rile up Chris Wilder, just eat sandwiches in front of him. It's easy trick. Just get a whole stadium. Get the areas just behind the dugout. Give all of them free sandwiches. He'll get riled up.
You missed a trick there, though. Give him free sausage rolls to go with it.
Have you seen, saying sausage rolls, have you seen him celebrating in the pub?
That's the whole point. That's exactly why I said sausage rolls.
Mate, honestly, I know he's taken a bit of stick for it, but if it was your manager after you'd won the derby, you would absolutely love that.
I kind of get it, but I can't bring myself to like Chris Wilder. I'm not going to lie.
As well.
I'm not a big fan of his.
I like Chris Wilder, I can't lie.
Well,
but then again, we've only played Sheffield United with Chris Wilder's Sheffield United once or twice. Because as they went down, we stayed up. Then they came up and we went down. So we've sort of avoided.
Right, and to put it this way, and Karl will agree with us here. I'm hoping that if Leicester play Sheffield United in the league next season, it's because you've got relegated. It's not that they've gone up. But hopefully you stay up, we come up, and Sheffield United stay down, unless Sheffield United win the playoffs.
The one game, though, the one game we have played them, where Vardy proper rattled Chris Wilder. You know when he scored
I
remember
that. He didn't like that.
Yeah.
Chris Wilder don't like anything. That's his problem.
He's a bit of an odd one because that sounds a bit rude actually, but he's perfect for Sheffield United. If you know what I mean.
Yeah, he succeeds when he's there, but everywhere else he's gone, he's not done anything, has he?
Yeah, it's like he's Middlesbrough.
Sheffield United is just perfect match together, isn't it?
Yeah, it's really good. Yeah.
Oh, actually, tell a lie. We played them twice because Vardy snapped the corner flag. I don't know if you remember that as well.
Flag,
he ran past Chris Wilder and snapped the corner flag. Yeah, I'm starting to see why Chris Wilder isn't a big Leicester fan.
I wonder why. But yeah, I think if we're gonna, like I said, I think it might have been Annie who said this. If to finish on Sunderland, because we need to get through everybody else. If Sunderland finish above two, I suppose, of two of Leeds, Sheffield United, or Burnley, or one of Leeds or Sheffield United, if Burnley keep Parker, we should be finishing in the automatics. Whether that happens or not is saying that and doing it, however, obviously two different things. There's still, 2/3 of the season left?
Yep.
So.
Yeah, we're about 33% of the season.
Yeah,
pretty much. Well, yeah, I mean, it's like 15, 30, 45, give or take one game. So, that's pretty much where we are. So, I think if we can... I always try to view the season in every bit of stages. So, for example, by the time we get the January window, I'd like to be around 50 points. Or if not that, then just below it. If we can do that, then fair enough. Then it gives us a good platform in January to hopefully really push for automatics if we're still in the conversation.
That means survival. So that's
Good point. Yeah. Well, as Ant remembers last season, I was going from, well, hang on, we could maybe finish in the top 6. Right, how many points do we need to make sure we don't get relegated?
Do you remember my comment about survival that really pissed loads of people off? Because we got 50 points by January or some.
And you said we're not going down to League One, so that's a
You're
positive.
Yeah,
oh my God, I've never seen so many comments calling me a twat in my life.
Hang on, how many points are everybody off survival? So Sunderland, we need 19 more points, so let's say 7 more wins. Leeds need about 7 more wins, and Bristol City, they probably need about 9 wins out of 31 games, so we're all going to be safe.
God almighty.
Yeah.
We've only won about 3 all season. So.
Join the club, mate. Join the club.
What about 3? We've just drawn 12 games or something.
Drawn about 25. It's ridiculous.
Oh, God. Right, you might want to start moving on the table, Karl, otherwise we're going to be literally here for 2.5 hours.
And going on to Mr. Wild himself at Sheffield United, I'm amazed that he's gone back to the club after they got relegated, before he got relegated last season. But to start on -2 points and then now to be levelled with Sunderland, I'm a bit surprised. I was not surprised. The team that he's had to build a team with a restricted transfer budget because of the financial situation. They got situation. Hopefully, the takeover might be done and dusted in by the time it's recording by the end of Christmas. But you not surprised how they started so well, especially that first game against Preston. They just annihilated them in that first half.
Go on. All right. Well, I made a comment after we played them, and I went, "Oh, they're a team with a lot of financial, power, and got a better squad than us." And that seemingly annoyed a lot of the Sheffield United fans. So I'm going to say it again: they've got a lot of financial power, and they've got parachute payments. So I'd expect nothing less than a squad that has been grouped together that's going to be in the top 6.
I don't know. I would have liked it if he'd held on to your lead against them in the 86th minute,
I would have liked it too, Michael, funnily enough, but not all. You don't get everything in life. But they've got a squad that should be in the top 6. Even though it's a new squad, got a lot of players in
There's
there.
Still quality there, isn't there, for top 6?
Exactly, a hell of a lot of quality in there. Amadodzic, Sutar, Souza, Hamer, Raksaki,
O'Hare, Moore,
Kiefer Moore's got really good quality in there, and some really good loans. So yeah, the top 2, which I didn't expect them, maybe potentially. I thought they'd be in the top 4 and around the mix, but they've really improved, and they've shown resilience. They shouldn't have won at Ashton Gate, if I'm being brutally honest. That they should have. A draw was probably about right, but if you can win those sort of games away from home in tight situations, it's just a mark of a very, really good team. So yeah, semi-surprised, semi-not, because Sheffield United is Chris Wilder. It's a really good squad. They should be up there.
The thing is, you say about financial situation, a lot of their loan players that they've got in are like international players. It's like, just from a Leicester side of view, Harry Suter, they want to look to buy on a permanent. We're looking for £20 million for him. It's not as if he's just some nobody.
No.
It's like they signed a lot of loan players that if they were going to look to buy them, would be big signings. And then Callum O'Hare is someone that Leicester tried to buy last summer, which was, we were given a 10 or 15 million pound price tag for him. So it's not as if they're like cheap players. They've just done very well in the transfer market. But whilst we're on the topic of Callum O'Hare, it must be nice for him to finally play in a full stadium. And same for Gus Hamer. But anyway, on that note, I'm just going to go and get another beer.
I should have known that there was going to be some sort of comment, because we talked about how they have Callum O'Hare and who's the other one, Gus Hamer.
Yeah,
ex-Coventry lads. Yeah, but to get, I think what Annie said was right. I think that the squad they've got should be in and around the top 6. Certainly as a minimum for them. And I think if you've got look at the quality that they have, it's Raksaki. There's another one on loan from Palace, which looks to be a really, really good piece of business. I still have my doubts, having watched them quite a few times, as to whether they're actually really going to be going along for the top 2 at the end of the season. But at the same time, Sunderland's squad injuries at the moment, or squad depth concerns potentially in the way Parker Ball's going along at Burnley, and that's not meant as a dig, because it's like literally Parker Ball. I hear a lot of Burnley fans say that it's like for Sunderland, the Sheffield United has a good chance to get automatic promotion. It's just, but as I said, I mean, I think I've always said that when they come up against teams that aren't expected to be in around the top end of the division, they tend to, I think they've lost a couple of those games, haven't they? So, for example, they went and lost at Middlesbrough, and a few days later, when they played Leeds at Ellen Road, that was one of the most one-sided games I've ever seen. And I think Leeds, if they'd won 4-5-0, I don't think there could have been many complaints about the result. So
I
they'll
was
beat.
surprised it was 2-0 than it was, yeah.
I know they score flat at Sheffield United in the end. So I think if you're gonna, I think they'll beat pretty much they'll beat pretty much 75% of the division, especially when it's going to be sides who are right down the bottom. They'll probably win them with ease, but they need to do a bit more if they're going to if they're really going to end up have a real chance of finishing in the top two when it comes to against sides around them. Now watch them beat us twice probably, but still, take the pessimism out of it as a fan. Like, if you want to get in around the top two, you need to be beating sides around you, or at the very least, not losing against them.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially they didn't look the best team in the Steel City derby before the international break. I thought Sheffield Wednesday had a good chance to win, but they got the 2 goals. They got the goal eventually to beat them, so it was a bit surprising because
I suppose I'll defend them there in that a derby game is quite different, isn't it? But I do get the point. I did hear Sheffield Wednesday had a good go at them.
Oh, I watched it. They did have a good goal. There was a lot of loose balls from the Blades in that game. Sheffield Wednesday couldn't take the chances in the final third. So yeah, but they got the win eventually, and I was a bit surprised. I thought Sheffield Wednesday could get the 3 points, at Berryhill for the first time in donks a year. So I was really surprised about that. But yeah, especially three of the players that we were linked to, like Harry Sutter, Raksaki, and also ourselves, Karl Hay, we were linked with before they went to the club. Along with we all turn into Leeds at the moment. Well, at least we did get Jaden Bogo.
I was going to say, yeah. At least you managed to get that one over on them.
£5 million on him, so
it's not a bad bit of business though. You sell Archie Gray for what was it, like 40 including add-ons, or 30 plus Joe Rodon,
and then it was 40 plus, and then they took the 10 million to when we got Joe Rodon. So yeah,
and then you end up getting Jaden Bogle as a as a replacement for him. Although apparently Archie Gray might be made available for loan in January if rumours are to be believed.
I've been hearing that as well too. Which is not surprised because I don't think he's been fitted in quite well, especially. So I think he needs to go. Yeah,
I've seen some reports that Ipswich and Leicester could be looking at him as a lower Premier League loan.
That would not be surprise in a way because, well, okay, maybe not Ipswich because I think what's going on with Calvin at the moment, and I feel sorry for him because
we played them a couple of weeks ago, Ipswich. Calvin Phillips ran that midfield until he decided to take one of Ricardo Pereira's legs out.
Yeah,
it's like he was having a really good game and then just absolutely swiped his legs out, and it's like he doesn't help himself at times.
No, I know. I think after when he wanted to leave Leeds, and I can understand why he wanted to leave Leeds, to try to get a bitch. But I think when Bielsa said I had to DBL, Pep was saying I had to DBLsa him because he had to, he didn't fit in the mold of what Pep wanted. Because after what happened with that situation, and Bielsa told him he was too fat when he came back from the Euros. I think that affected him quite over that course of the season, and it affected during his career, and especially the loans he's been going to. And then especially there's been rumours going on that he's probably be gone in January to come back to us. Because I feel like Man City don't have a choice because Man City want to buy another defensive midfielder to replace Rodri, and he's not going to be that type. But we'll see what happens. But going on to Leeds, I'll let you guys give me questions, and I'll answer.
Well, I'll tell you what, I'll ask one quickly, and I want to ask this particularly to Annie because we're both going to be neutrals on this. Say Archie Gray has been linked with both Leeds and Leicester. Which club out of the two of them, Annie, would you back him to go to more? For me, going to Leeds in terms of game time, unless there's a gap in Leicester's squad where he can fill, would make more sense. But the Premier League's the Premier League, isn't it? So I could see him going to either one. Leeds obviously has got the pulling power of him being a local lad as well.
Really difficult one because you play in the Premier League and the Premier League is the Premier League. It's like you'd rather play there, but it's also going to Leeds. It's a massive club. It's going back to your boyhood club as well. But if I was Archie Gray, probably lean towards Leicester, to be honest, just because it's the
The thing
Premier
is,
League.
I don't think that'll be Archie Gray's choice. I think it'll be where Spurs
Yeah.
will have a heavy influence. And I think if Spurs have got the choice of a top end Championship club or a lower Premier League club, it's like it's not as cut dry as you think, because Leicester have had the choice with options before of loans. You know, when we were sort of pushing for Europe, we had choices of sending players to loans to top Championship clubs or lower Premier League clubs. And we quite often sent them to top Championship clubs because it would be playing a closer style of football to what
Yeah,
we
and
were playing.
yeah.
Which Leeds are probably playing a closer style of football than what to what Spurs are, than what Leicester are, because we're playing Steve Cooper's very painful, negative, boring, depressing, anti-football. Whereas Leeds are like, you're on the front foot 90% of the time because you're one of the best teams in the division.
That's for me where if I was Spurs and Archie Gray, obviously you know where he fits in at Leeds, doesn't he? Because obviously he played regularly last season. If I was Spurs, I would send him to Leeds for the second half of the season, and then next season look to get him a good loan, like a proper loan in the Prem, whether it's Leeds if they get promoted again, or whether it's someone else who's going to be closer to Spurs' style. Sorry,
what-
closer to what Spurs want, rather.
It's what Chelsea did with Conor Gallagher, I think, is where they sent him
Yeah, to
they
Palace.
sent him to Swansea because they were like up there
Yeah.
for the second half of the season. Had a really good second half of the season, then sent him to Palace and had a really cracking season. And then he got into the starting 11.
Yeah,
Chelsea
well,
really
that's the thing, because I wonder. Sorry, Carl, I'll just say I wonder if another 6 months in the Championship would be better for Gray's development at this point, because he's only had one season of regular men's football, hasn't he?
Yes.
So for me, I wonder whether the Premier League at this point is still one jump slightly too far. Next season, I don't think it is. I think next season, it's a fair shout to get him a Premier League move. But
it would be, and I'll come back. It would be. I think what happened was, I think what Spurs were trying to learn after what happened, because this similar scenario happened with Jack Clark when in Beale's first season, where we sold him to Spurs for £10 million to us, and we brought him back. But Bielsa didn't use him a lot, and that was one of the issues that Spurs were a bit annoyed of. We're not getting his development out, and that's what Jack Clark. He had a few loan spells and he was struggling, and because he had Mourinho and all that stuff, and Pochettino and so forth, and then he had to go to Sunderland, which is paid dividends because it's a style of play he needed, because I don't think he was going to fit in that Spurs squad at the time before Ange came in. So for that matter, I thought, listen, I understand what the club did. I had to let him go, but what the club should have done is brought him back on loan at the start when we sold it off, because it would have kept with the financial fair play and keep the quality of the squad. Because if we knew we were going to sell Glenn Kamara off, we would have had him there, because with the injuries we got with Ampadu, he would have basically been slotted in with Tanaka or Rothwell to carry that midfield for the last few games, from the start of the season, vice versa. So I think it depends what Spurs are going to dictate or what they want to do, and we will wait and see. Because I think we're now going to have loads of options now. Because if Ipswich do release Calvin Phillips, that's going to put another complex in that one of, does he come back on loan to us, or do we take Archie Gray back?
Yeah.
So it's a bit of a tough one where both sides of the clubs are thinking about, all sides of the clubs, including Man City, Leeds, and Spurs, of which defensive midfield do you want to take for the rest of the season.
To me, I feel like for a loan deal, Calvin Phillips is a better player, because there's no longevity in you signing Archie Gray back on loan. Like, yes, it's great for Spurs, it develops him, but as of right now, I would say Calvin Phillips is a better player for someone who's just going to come in, step in for half a season, and then you've got a chance of signing Calvin Phillips on a permanent.
I think we will do if that scenario happens again, because I think everyone knows he wants to come on. And there's been rumours for a while he wants to come back to Leeds, and it's not been surprised
He's not a bad player, though, is he? He's a good player that's had his confidence massively kicked.
That's the problem, and I think that was the issue. I think that confidence slowly started when we stayed up after we stayed up, after just about, and I think after what Bielsa said about him, I think that knocked his confidence, because he was England's Player of the Year during that season as well, which people forget. He was England's Player of the Year.
it's like I said, mate, because I went to Portman Road a couple of weeks ago. He ran that midfield until he got sent off. And, like, again, say about Harry Winks what you want, but Harry Winks, Wilfred Ndidi is a good midfield partnership. That Calvin Phillips was just controlling that midfield. It shows that he can cut it at Premier League level. I just think he can't cut it at Man City level, which is a complete different ball game. Like, you look who was competing.
Who he's up against, he's not getting in their team, is he?
No, but even when you, like, say, for example, just if in your team, like in your guys' teams, if you take away the starting holding midfielder, the drop-off to the next person's going to be quite big. At Man City, it couldn't be any bigger, because for holding midfielders, Rodri, who's just won the Ballon d'Or and is the best player in the world in that position. And, like, anyone who you put in that role is going to be a drop-off. For me, Calvin Phillips is a good player who, I think, as much as people want, like Leeds fans won't want to hear it, you can understand why he wanted to leave Leeds to go to Man City.
We understood, yeah.
But at the same time,
like Dewsbury Hall going to Chelsea, he's never going to be that level of player. But you understand why he's gone. But at the end of the day, they're both good players, but they're not top four sort of pushing on for title level players.
The thing for me is, what does Calvin Phillips? I was supposed to sort of get it back to Leeds. Like, I think if I'm trying to have a look to see how long Calvin Phillips has got left on his Man City contract, because he's going to be at the point now where he's earned a lot of money from. I know he would have been earning a fair amount of money at Leeds, but like Man City level finances is different, obviously. So, you know what? At this point, it'll be about playing the football, won't it? So, but there you go. I've just seen. Oh, hang on. Oh, never mind. Sorry, he's under contract till 2028. Ignore me. But the point is, like, if he comes back to someone like Leeds, unless obviously he's doing really well at Ipswich, then you never know. But he's at the point now where he needs to get minutes, doesn't he? He needs to get himself just playing and enjoying football again. And I think Leeds is somewhere he's loved, knows the area. The fans seem to still have an affinity with him. Karl, tell me if I'm wrong there. But I would say that if he doesn't stay at Ipswich for the full year, that's a really, really good option as far as I'm concerned. Again, to ask you a question on Leeds, right? So from Leeds' point of view, how do you see the season yourself so far then? Because obviously I've heard a couple of, correct me if I'm wrong here, I heard a couple of people going along down we're winning games, but it's quite boring sort of route. Now, I didn't know if I was paraphrasing or whether I was exaggerating.
You're 100% that has been what the phrase will be saying, everyone was me saying. And listen, I have similar concerns, but what do you expect us to do? We can't play. We're going to be more. We have to play a bit boring sometimes to try to win the games. And I think the tactical change we've had from last season to this season were a bit more slow than we were last season, because last season we were even points behind Leicester, and even I come back, we were so behind with Liverpool start, we didn't know who was going to be there. But I think now because the gap's a lot more closer, between that time, we were about 10, 12 points away from Leicester at this time last season. We were about points away, and I think Farkas had to change tactics to slow down the game to try to get decent results. Even though we might not get, if we get a point, that's away from home. That's good enough. It's more about away home. So yeah, we could be countered. We're a bit more counter-attacking than we used to be last season, because we were more pressing and on the opposition's front foot when we had the ball.
Yeah.
It's more about being off the ball now and being better with that. So, speaking of Calvin, I think Karl's got his own 150,000 a week from Man City contract. I think it would not be bad if he did take he wouldn't be surprised if he ever did take a pay cut to come back. It would not be surprised, but he'd still be one of the highest earner at the club if that ever happened.
Karl, can I just ask you a question? You say regarding last year, would you say you're a better team now compared to where you were last year, or do you think the standard of division has lowered? Because you had better individual quality last year, in my opinion, with Somerville, with Archie Gray. And I haven't watched a huge amount of Leeds. I've only watched 2 or 3 games. But you look much more of a team now instead of just last year. It almost looked like give it to individual brilliance with Rutter, Somerville, and hope for the best. There never seemed like there was a huge amount more to you than that.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I think that's what it was after I reviewed everything when we sold some of our Rutter, and like I said, it was unexpected because we thought at the time Red Bull came in. We thought that would stabilize a bit. We hopefully keep both one or the other or both of them, but we found out we had to sell both of them. I think because Rutter's contract clause was going to end after that defeat to Middlesbrough in the Carabao Cup, and it was just activated minutes after the game, minutes before it was going to, But we, like you said, we look a bit more as a team, better as a team than individuals, because I think that was our issue last season. It was too much individuals, just was not helping us get to the finish line. I think that's what cost us, to get back up to the Premier League. That did really cost us because after we beat yourselves, and also as well. But I think those that March onwards, it was too much individualism, and it was at the team, and I think there was a lot of negativity around the club, especially when it was too much individual work there as a team. And I think Farke, giving his credit, I know a lot of fans have had mixed views on him, but I did see some data. I did see some stats actually, and I did and through LFUC data that and this is surprising. So Farke has been in charge for 500 days now. He has the highest points return average of 1.95 per game out of any Leeds manager head coach in our history plus 10 matches. He's like 11 points ahead of Don Revie, David O'Leary, Simon Grayson, Gary McCarthy, Bielsa, and Howard Wilkinson.
I do think the narrative around Farke at Leeds would be very different if Ipswich and Leicester weren't in the Championship last season.
I 100% agree.
Because if we weren't in the Championship along with Ipswich, and I believe we got 99 points, they got 97.
I can tell you now, you got 97, Ipswich got 96, and Leeds got 90. And 90 points, 9 times out of 10, gets you the league, let alone automatic promotion, doesn't it?
Yeah.
If Leeds get 90 this season, they're top two.
They win the league. If you get 90, I agree with Annie. If you like, it comes back to the point I've said to Karl before that yes, okay, Leeds in terms of individual players might not have Rutter, Somerville, Gray, Kamara, but I've said before, one, you look more of a team, and two, the league's not as good. So therefore, if you get anywhere close to the tally you got last year, you at minimum get second place. And I think sometimes I know that some of the fans can say if it's not look as good to watch, but at the same time, like you said, there was a phrase Ant used to say all the time, and it's this phrase that's bang on. Goals win games, defenses win titles. And that's where. And if I'm looking at your last few home games as an example, right? In fact, if you look, let's go back to I don't know, end of September. So actually, I'll tell you what then. So since the start of September, so obviously you lost 1-0 to Burnley. Clean sheet against Cardiff, you won 2-0. Beat Coventry 3-0. Clean sheet. Norwich and Sunderland, okay, 2 tough away games. You didn't keep clean sheets there, but you still got points out of the game. And Sunderland obviously should have been a win. But then you had Sheffield United. You kept a clean sheet against them. Beat Watford. You kept a clean sheet at Ashton Gate, and Bristol City until a couple of games ago, until their last home game, had been undefeated at Ashton Gate. So that's not a bad point.
No.
Plymouth, okay, look, apparently Plymouth didn't have a shot, so of course you're going to keep a clean sheet, but you can only beat what's in front of you. Millwall away, considering their recent home form, that's a tough game. That is a tough game. And then you respond, but you bounce back by beating QPR. The only thing for me that I would have not concerns, but would raise question marks over Leeds is that you haven't won away since mid-September.
Yeah,
that's the only. But if I'm also going to flip it the other way, you haven't had the easiest of games away from home since then. So like Norwich, Sunderland, Bristol City, and Millwall, they're 4 pretty tough away games, and you've only lost one of them, and should have won at Sunderland, obviously. So I think obviously the games you've got coming up away from home, I mean, like Swansea, Blackburn, who I think are starting to tail off a little bit.
Yeah.
Preston, then Stoke, Derby. Like, you've got a bunch of then in January Hull before you play Burnley. Obviously, that's the next away game you've got. That's probably would be on paper viewed as a really tough away game. And I say all games are tough, but I mean really tough. Like one that's going to be up there. So I think if you can start getting a few wins away from home, as well as continuing on most of your home form, then I still stand by it. I don't see anyone being better than Leeds over the course of the entirety of the whole season. I think that they will be the one that's most consistent.
When I watch Leeds this season, I see a lot of what we used to get last season, where it's like teams don't try and play football against you. It's just everyone behind the ball,
Yeah.
which is why I think that the fact you're having to play a little slower and be a little bit more patient, it comes naturally with the territory. It's I struck, and again, as I say, I haven't watched every Leeds game this season, but no one goes toe to toe with Leeds. Everyone who I've seen plays men behind the ball.
Yeah, that's what we've seen at the turning point from last season. We have seen the teams are really backing up from a very low defensive line. To be quite honest with you, I think what Michael is right. It's just we're not had a win since mid September, and that will need to change. We've got some more tough games, especially with Derby coming up just around that Christmas period, and Stoke as well, and Preston before. We have it's as long as we can try to get with Ampadu. It looked like his injury is looked like he's getting back to full fitness, but we're not going to rush him. I think
You don't need to rush him, do you?
no, and we don't need to. I think it's just to make sure, as long as because we've got Tananka who's been playing out of his socks quite well with Raphael, Joshua Grandery who signed on a free transfer. He's looked like he's coming to fit that slot in quite well. So I think what we just the concern is mainly Peru's now getting the goals now, which we're glad to see because a lot of fans criticize him so much because he's got like 14 goals last season for us in our competition. So, I think it's just Mateo Joseph needs to be a bit more clinical with his finishing, and that's the critical one because when we play Joseph up front, I think he is rapid, but his finishing is still very raw, and I think we do probably need a striker coming up to make sure that is tied up a bit. Because listen, Joseph, fantastic because we got anyone to play up front, but I think now as more as a team that we were individuals last season, individual brilliances. It's just it's like what you said, like what I said. Defense wins you titles. It's like that when I'm watching my NFL stuff. Defense wins you the Super Bowl. It wins you the Super Bowl. Offense you can throw around, but it's the defense that makes the difference. And I
But
think
you need both, don't you?
yeah, and that's what we need. We need both. So hopefully, I think the international break maybe came at least from now until next March. There's no international breaks, and at least we can start getting the confidence a bit every game by game to try to keep it within points with yourselves and Sheffield United and try to because last season we were way behind on we were fifth around this time last season, way behind Leicester, Ipswich, Southampton, and this time we're only a 3-4 point difference between yourselves, Mike, and Sheffield United. So I think everyone shouldn't be worried about it too much because Farker does have the best point return per average out of in Temple's games. I think people need to realize that and say, look, we're not far where we were last season. Let's back the team, and I think maybe now we're seeing a bit more support from the fans to be on side this time than we were last season.
And just to finish off, you've got the best goal difference in the league. I mean, granted, between us, like one goal, isn't it? Because we've got plus 14, you've got plus 15, and you're 1 point off 2 points per game, which, as we said, that's the benchmark you need to go for if you're wanting to get automatic promotion. And I mean, if you notice, like Sheffield United, for example, have won 3 games in a week before the international break. That's propelled them up to where they are now. Whereas I feel like you guys have been more consistently there nearly every week. So I'm not saying Sheffield United haven't been, but I think you guys, as I said, over the season you'll be most consistent out of everybody.
Aye, right. Do you know what? I am going to try to skip through most of the teas as I'm looking at the group chat.
Well, why don't you do like the top 6, bottom 3, Bristol City, and then
I would agree to do that.
Then the biggest talking points, and
Yeah, that would be fair. That'd be fair then.
So sorry, anyone who's missed if we've missed out your team, but unless you do them main ones, then we just do a quick 30-second roundup or something on everybody else.
Yeah,
if you've missed your team, get better and get in the top 6.
Yeah. Well, all right then. Why don't you do Parker Ball next?
Yeah. Okay, let's do Parker Ball. Actually, yeah.
And he's like, let's not, please. It's dull. Actually, don't you play that? Don't you play them next?
I just-
Leicester City play them next. Oh, that's funny.
Can't wait to gorge my eyes out.
My most disappointing thing about Burnley this season is it's not Steve Cooper in charge of them.
We know what Scott Parker will do, though. That's the thing.
He was
Clubs
warned
still
by
manage to hire them.
Bournemouth fans and Fulham fans about it.
Apparently, they
It's
were saying
like-
exactly the same thing to Burnley fans about Parker Ball. Right? Do you guys? I'll ask you then. Do you guys think that Parker was very lucky that that penalty from Jay Rodriguez potentially saved his job for the time being? Because I would not have been surprised if Burnley had pulled the trigger if they hadn't beaten Swansea.
I watched that game and I was like, this is a nothing game. Like, no one deserves to win here. Like, both teams are kind of just. Swansea actually had the best chance in the game. Liam Collins missed. Maxime Esteve cleared one off the line. Apart from that, it was nothing game. It was a 0-0. And then I don't know, I can't remember who it was. Someone just decides. Matt Grimes decides to throw his hands about, like jazz hands in the middle of the box, and decides, I'm going to give a penalty away. No one should have won that game. And if he didn't win that game, there would have been pressure on him. I don't think he'd have been sacked, because I think they had looked at the bigger picture and said, well, it's still fourth, still kind of in the top two conversation to a degree. I still think they've got quality. I think if they are in a top two battle, Burnley, they'll be in a top two battle regardless of Scott Parker. If you know what I mean. It won't be because.
I mean, they'll be in there in spite of him, not because of him.
Yeah, they will be there because the quality they have in their squad, not because.
Which
Scott
they should
Parker.
be, shouldn't they?
Yeah.
Their team should be top two level standard. When you look at some of the players in that squad, like Brownhill, Foster, Rodriguez, even though he's getting on a bit. Then you look at who else signed? Sarmiento there as well.
Like some of the players, I was astounded they actually kept them, like Koleosho and I was going to say Sander Berger, but no, Josh Brownhill, Lyle Foster, and then obviously the likes of
what on earth?
Can we just talk about how well dressed Scott Parker is?
Do you know it's one of those things where you point out a score and you just go, say, I don't know, Burnley 1, Swansea 0. Burnley 4, Swansea 0. Parker dresses well. We kept a clean sheet. We're in the top two picture.
Sorry, I haven't watched anything about Burnley this season. I've got nothing to contribute, but he's got good cardigans.
God.
Sorry, I'm sharp.
To be fair, actually, because me and Karl probably could comment a bit because both of our teams have played Burnley. And I think, to be fair, the Sunderland game for Burnley was kind of an outlier in that it was a transition where a lot of players had been sold in very quick succession. But anyone who watched that game or even highlights of that game will know Sunderland should have won by about probably 2-3-4-0. And I'm not exaggerating. Like we battered Burnley. We got our tactics bang on against them. And even what Karl you were saying, even against Leeds, they rolled their luck a lot. You missed some gilt-edged chances that game, didn't you?
And they started to look at that counter attack. Yeah, and then they just took it. They took the chances.
But so in games like that, Parker Ball probably is best suited. But when he has to come up, but unfortunately for him, you're going to come up against a lot of teams, especially at Turf Moor, that are going to come up and basically put 10 men behind the ball and say, "Come on, come break us down." And most the games I watched, I remember I watched them play Preston, I think, the day after Sunderland and Leeds played each other before the October international break.
Yeah.
That was dull as dishwater. And Preston had a goal that shouldn't have been disallowed either. And it might sound like we're being this harsh on Burnley, but look at their squad, man. Their squad's better than the way that they're playing at the moment. So yeah, I think I do. Maybe I do agree what Annie said that if they hadn't had that penalty against Swansea, sacked might have been harsh, but I'll tell you right now, he wouldn't have been far off it. And if they go, because it wouldn't surprise me if they go to Bristol City and lose, and then follow up with a number of draws afterwards. Like it really wouldn't shock me.
It shocked me.
Annie, I know you've got the Bristol City pessimism and all that, but I'm promising you are playing better than they are at the minute.
Yeah, I mean that's not hard at the moment, to be fair.
Well, yeah, his bar's not that high, but yeah, you look at the goal you scored against Preston. Burnley haven't probably scored a single goal.
I know. This season. Again, it was handball, so don't deny that.
Look at our third goal. Is all I'm going to say. But
I don't care about the third goal. The third goal doesn't matter.
I mean, to be fair, even if that goal hadn't been allowed, then Bristol City probably should have then won 2-1 anyway. So I know what you mean. The game.
Anyway, back to Parker. Sorry, go on.
No, go on. I'll say, do you guys think, particularly Karl and Annie, but I mean I can join as well. Do you guys think Scott Parker lasts the season at Burnley? Now the fact that you paused there says a lot.
It
I
does
think-
say a lot.
I think he will, but one of those where it's not huge amounts of confidence in him. He's there because he's just about doing enough to keep him in the job. And I think that'll be because Burnley have got a lot of Premier League level players in their squad.
Not because he's a good manager or anything, or not because he's a great.
Yeah.
I think for me, as long as they're in the top 6, they keep him. But that's not the standard Burnley should be adhering to with the team they have.
No.
We were having the same conversations with Ross Martin last season, weren't we? It's like, okay, Southampton don't have to be in a top 2 race as long as they go up. And I think that's the standard they're going to be judging Scott Parker on as well. As long as he gets Burnley promoted, which he has history of, getting Bournemouth promoted by a fingernail, and then getting Fulham promoted with the best squad in the league by extra time in the playoff final.
Against Brentford, that wasn't it?
It was.
Against Brentford, who were fair enough, but still, very unconvincingly, he's got 2 teams promoted. But yeah, as long as I think he's in the top 4 or in the top 5, and they don't look in serious threat of dropping out of the top 6, and they don't go on like a 5-game losing streak or something stupid like that, I think he'll be in the job. And ultimately, I think he'll do that because he's done this sort of thing before, Parker, where he's just got a squad that's so good that we think is underperforming, and it is, but they'll have enough to kind of just be in there, and then they'll set up for the playoffs. So
to be fair, in a mini tournament against like teams near the top 6, he might actually not do bad. When you're coming up against teams around him, he probably will do okay. So, but Karl, put it this way: if Annie's right, then this will be a good thing, because then we don't have to worry about Burnley.
And they're really good defensively as well.
Can I ask a question to you guys though? Because Steve, and I say this, and this is touch wood, because Steve Cooper was the first choice at Burnley, but he chose Leicester. If Steve Cooper gets sacked at Leicester, do you reckon that might improve, like put more pressure on Scott Parker?
I thought Ruud van Nistelrooy would have been available.
He was,
pushed that boat a little bit.
But they actually offered the job to Steve Cooper, which is.
I think they did with Van Nistelrooy as well. I think.
Oh, did they?
Van Nistelrooy was really ahead until Old Trafford. Sir Alex called him to come join Ten Hag at the time because he was the front runner, and it was from what I hear, it was a done deal, but it wasn't signed until
Because I know with Steve Cooper, they offered him the job and he didn't reject it because he knew he was still in the running for the Leicester job, but he didn't expect to get the Leicester job. He thought, it was all thought that Graham Potter was going to be our manager. And then that fell through at the final final hurdle. So I don't know if I'm looking into this too much and just hoping that Steve Cooper pisses off tomorrow. But if he does go, do you reckon there's a chance that he could end up at Burnley and that making it a hot or do you reckon once he's not signed that contract once, that's it done?
Put it this way: I think if Burnley fans are really sick of Parker Ball, I think they'd take anybody apart from Scott Parker.
I'll take Scott Parker over Steve Cooper at Leicester.
I don't think you would.
Based on what I've watched of Burnley this year, I really don't think you would. I mean, to be fair, from what I've heard, Steve Cooper's. The thing is with Steve Cooper, yes, I think he's done really poor. But the only thing I can say in his defence is that he hasn't got one of the best teams in the Premier League, and although you can play better than what you are, because from what you've told us, the football has been very turgid. Burnley, Scott Parker in the Championship really especially has no excuse for the football to be this poor when you look at the squad that they've got compared to everyone else.
I think Steve Cooper's one of those managers that he needs to, if he's going to succeed in the Premier League, and I don't want to talk about Leicester too much, but if he's going to succeed in the Premier League, he needs to have brought the team up from the Championship, because a huge amount of what he's about is communication, getting the fan base on side, and this, that, and the other. Half of the Leicester fans are just like, well, you said exactly the same shit at Forest. We don't care.
Well, yeah. I mean, to answer your question, possibly. If Parker has got sacked and Cooper gets sacked, then you never know. Like Cooper, the Championship might suit Steve Cooper. It might suit the Burnley squad, might suit him because he's a squad that probably will be more on the front foot or expected to be more on the front foot.
Steve Cooper doesn't know what front foot means.
Well, in the Championship, you never know.
We don't,
To be
yeah.
fair, and when he was with Forest in the Championship, he had Brennan Johnson, Keenan Davis, Jet Spence, Zinkernagel, Lewis Graben, 5 really ridiculously good attacking players, right? And he just went, fuck it, just let them play, just let them do what they want. So if he has that same sort of quality in the Championship again, like it might genuinely be
I
just
think
a better watch than what Parker is.
I was going to say, I don't think it could be worse than Parker Ball.
No, exactly.
to be fair, like from what I've seen from Scott Parker, even at Bournemouth and Fulham, even in the Premier League, it's hard to disagree. It's like I really don't want Steve Cooper in charge of Leicester. I begrudgingly would say Scott Parker because I'm at that stage with anyone but Cooper.
Yeah,
The
I get
thing
it.
with-
Anyone here but Steve Cooper, yeah.
The thing with Scott Parker is when you see his teams play, and I've seen a couple of his teams at Ashton Gate, you don't really know what the style of play is. It's kind of like, okay, they're trying to play possession-based football, but they don't know what they're doing with it. And they have the quality there, but the players don't know what they're doing. So it just feels like a complete mess. So
Yeah.
I mean, Burnley, they should be doing a lot better. If we're going back to talking about them, they should be doing a lot better with the squad. And it's not just the starting 11; it's the squad. Like if you look at the options they have off the bench, and I know they have quite a few injuries at the moment. I know Ekdal and Bayer and Foster, who's mentioned, are all kind of not been available for a while. Mark Trezor as well. They've got options who are not available for them at the moment, and that might be an issue for Parker. But still, even with the starting 11 and the bench is producing, should still be playing a lot better. But at the moment, what are they? Fourth? They're
fourth.
fourth.
They've got 27 points.
Yeah, so
you could look at it the other one way or the other. You could look at they're 4 points off second, or they're 3 points above seventh.
Yeah, I think if you kind of extrapolate that for the rest of the season, they'll find themselves in the middle of the playoffs, not probably be anywhere close to seventh or second, which ultimately, if Parker finishes fourth, gets promoted by the playoffs again, is it really a
job done then, couldn't you, to be fair?
Job done, but is it, again, it's unconvincing and it's Scott Parker, so you don't really know. You can't really expect.
All right then. So if Scott Parker stays, to sort of wrap it up before we move on to the next team, do any of you guys think? Do you guys think do you think Burnley will be challenging for top 2?
No.
If in the scenario Parker's there the whole season, or do you think they'll end up just settling for playoffs?
It's more the playoffs. I can't get that.
If he's there the full year, I agree. If they sack him some point and get someone in who's better, then I could see them, depending on how big the gap is, I could see them making a real push for automatics. But if Parker's there the whole year, which if he gets enough results to keep themselves in the playoffs, I think he will probably keep his job. Then I'm not as worried. Put it this way, as someone who should be worried about Burnley, I'm not if he's there the full year. Not as much.
I think they're more in a playoff kind of. They'll be pulled down more than they'll push themselves up, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
I think with the group of teams you're looking at in the kind of that playoff picture, with West Brom in there, Middlesbrough, and potentially a Coventry or a Luton maybe making a run in there as well.
Norwich potentially, if they get the likes of the Sargent and Gunn back fit as well.
Once Norwich are fully fit and going, they'll start pushing up again. So
yeah,
I think with the quality of teams just directly below Burnley, I think they'll be looking at more of a playoff battle than a top two battle.
Yeah. No,
but not honestly, the quality disparity between them and the rest of the teams just below them is huge. It's massive, but that's
basketball levels the playing field, doesn't it?
That's the situation they found themselves in, and that's ultimately what you're going to get with Scott Parker.
Yeah.
Well, watch this space and see if he's still in charge in the next 6 weeks or something. See what happens.
We'll see. Do you know what? I'm going to skip most of the teams because I want to get on to Annie's team. I want to get to Bristol City.
Well, why don't you just quickly mention West Brom and Watford and likes of Borough and all that?
Yeah, I can do that. Yeah, we'll do.
Well, I'll tell you what then. West Brom, because this is kind of relevant to Annie. To Anne, because we've been kind of talking about. He said that Carlos Corberán was a manager he would want at Leicester. So
and he's one of the ones that's odds-on favourites if Cooper is sacked to come to Leicester.
Well, okay, I'll tell you what then. Asking it quickly, just sort of make it relevant to the Championship then. a lot of what West Brom, it says quite a lot. West Brom went on a 7-game winless run or something, but they had like 5 bloody draws in a row, and then
Yeah.
they obviously beat Hull before the international break. Do you guys reckon that if Colbrand let's say Cooper gets sacked, and let's say Colbrand goes down, and then let's say Steve McLaren goes to Leicester,
Still an upgrade.
you're going, not great, but I've been Coopered to such a degree that I want to take anyone but him. No, let's say in this scenario, Ant's going to be very happy because Cooper gets sacked. Not just that, and Colbrand goes to Leicester. Let's say that happens for a minute. If Colbrand leaves West Brom, is that the big worry for them?
Yes.
Because I know that the main source of their goals has been Josh Madger, who's been an astute signing for West Brom. But it does. Would it concern you guys if Colbrand was to leave one way or another about West Brom's playoff chances?
It's exactly the opposite of what we just chatted about with Burnley, of Burnley being where they are because of Parker in a negative sense. I think West Brom are where they are because of Colbrand in a positive.
Positive, yeah. No, I agree with that. What do you two think?
No, I do agree. I think
Yeah.
if Carlos Colbrand is poached by whoever, but I think
Scuttle in from Ant there.
I think it will. Will it derail West Brom potentially? I think they'll still be kind of in that top 6 battle because they've still got some decent players in that team, and a lot of that is due to Colbrand. You know, he's revitalised a lot of these players' careers. But yeah, I think at the moment West Brom are probably a safe bet for the top 6, possibly. I think there's a lot of still again a lot of competition just trying to push above them. But I think they're pretty stable under Colbrand to try and force themselves into the top 6.
No, yeah, I couldn't agree with that as well. I think if without Cobra, I think if he does go and then go to Leicester, I think West Brom could still be in that top half, but can they challenge for the playoffs if little teams are coming and picking up the points? That's the difficult part to maintain their season if he goes, because who's going to be the best replacement for Coburn if he does leave West Brom? No one
Scott
knows.
Parker, Steve Cooper.
I personally think Steve Cooper would be fantastic.
Of course you would. Of course you would.
Because you want him to manage all the Midlands teams, don't you?
Yeah.
Except
Pretty
for
much.
Coventry.
Yeah, just swap over. Cooper goes to
Mate,
West Brom and
He
Colbrand
can
goes
manage
to...
who he likes for all I care. Northampton Town, Daventry Town, like as long as it's not Leicester.
Okay then. So, sorry, Annie, go on.
I think with
West Brom.
With West Brom, I think with Colbrand at the start of the season, we'd have expected them to be kind of in this block of the table for the large majority of the season because it's Carlos Colbrand. You know, he's kind of made fairly consistent, and he's proven over a long period of time now that he's a very good Championship manager. So I don't think there's any sort of surprises coming with West Brom in terms of what they'll do, and you know there won't be any crazy 4-3 wins or any crazy 4-3 defeats. They'll keep it tight. They'll draw a lot of games, and in a playoff race, especially in this season, is that such a bad thing? Probably not.
Not with how tight the league is. No,
we've drawn a lot of games. I don't want to make this about us, but we've drawn a lot of games, and we're kind of in that battle at the moment. So it's not such a bad thing to have a manager. It's not such a bad thing to have Karl Colbrand as a manager, full stop. But you know, it's not so bad to have a manager who will maybe be a little bit pragmatic and draw that many games. But I think he'll get the best out of Madger, the Grant, the Fellows, and they'll be kind of firmly in that battle for the top 6, if not in the top 6 comfortably.
I think as well. One other thing about West Brom that does concern me a little bit, aren't they close to FFP restrictions as well?
Yes,
because they had that's the reason why. I mean, I don't know whether he wasn't signing another contract, for example, but that's why I believe Thomas Asante was sold to Coventry in the summer because they had to get a bit of funds going on.
They were fined for the transfer embargo, but they didn't do any points. But they were fined, but they were restricted to sign players at the time to clear that they had to clear it first. So yeah.
Right, okay, and so that could be a potential concern even if Colbrand does stay. But to be fair, like Annie has said, I think when you look at how tight this league is, I think a lot of teams are probably going to drop points because the league is that tight for a reason that a lot of teams just aren't as consistent. So I think if West Brom can just keep themselves treading above 7th, which if Cole Brown's there the full season, you'd probably back them to do, then I don't see any reason why they wouldn't be in the playoffs. And I'll go as far to say this, actually. At the minute, if the table finished as it was, for example, and Burnley and West Brom played each other in the playoffs, Carlos Corberán versus Scott Parker, it's not a sure bet. It's not a sure bet for Burnley. Put it that way.
The thing is with Carlos Corberán, he seems loyal to West Brom to a point. It's like even if it's not Leicester, I genuinely wonder how far that loyalty would go though if a Premier League
club came in for him.
Came in for him.
That is a huge question, yeah. Because I think Lee's tried that when we tried to get him back, and he stayed and he didn't move budge. He signed a new contract extension where we tried to get him.
That'll be I guess watch this space to see with Corberán. But while he's there, I think it's a fair summary. While he's there, West Brom will probably be playoffs. If he goes,
or very, very, very close.
Yeah, closely, but yeah, you would imagine West Brom. You're more confident and much more confident of West Brom being playoffs if Corberán's there. And if he goes, unless they equally replace him with someone equally as good, less of a chance. Obviously, much less of a chance being there.
50-50.
Yeah, we'll wait and see.
Exactly.
What about the team below them then?
Watford. Yeah, well, I was surprised how Tom Cleverley started well, and their home form's been good as well.
Such an enigma.
Have they not lost at home yet?
No.
They've only drawn one game, and they've won all the others.
And to love who that draw was against.
Is it Cov?
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
It was Cov 1-1.
But they I haven't watched much again of Watford. I've watched a couple of games. I just don't get it. It's like they're fantastic on the road. At home, but just
I was going to say, yeah.
I know.
But they struggle to win anything away from home, don't they?
Up till recently, they beat Sheffield Wednesday 6-2.
But that's sort of the anomaly, isn't it?
Yeah, I think if I'm right, I think I said the last time we did a show on this that it was the first time they'd won away from home since beating Millwall on the opening day.
Yeah.
Away from home. So that's... Yeah, I mean, with Watford, it's a funny one because a lot of people probably expected Watford to be down the bottom end of the league. And I know like second tier podcasts, not the top 20 podcasts, both had them to get relegated, didn't they? So I didn't think they'd personally be that bad, but I did think that, with all the upheaval that's going on at Vicarage Road at the moment, and there's apparently issues. Is there issues behind the scenes as well? Everything's not plain sailing from what I can hear at Watford at the moment. So you've got to give credit to Tom Cleverley for, first of all, the fact he's still there at this point, because we know Watford aren't exactly the most patient when it comes to head coaches.
No, I know. I think the owners have been trying to sell the club for quite a while, actually. It's been on the market for a while.
Oh, yeah. Aren't they joint owning Udinese as well?
Yes, they still own that, but I think the ownership have been trying to sell.
Yeah, that's a problem.
US. I don't think that. I think there's been a breakdown with that, which is affected. Yeah.
But to be fair, is that all the more credit how well Tom Cleverley's done? Even if away from home they've been utter pants, to get the points they have done at home to get on, what is it, 25 points they're on? We talk about safety then. All right then, Watford are halfway there if you want to look at it really pessimistically, but I don't personally see Watford being where they are come, say, 10, 15 games' time. Mm-hmm. But they've probably done enough, really, to make sure that as long as they're consistent enough. If they average a point a game for the rest of the season, for example, they don't go down, do they? So it just depends what Watford's expectation is. But if there's a lot of people behind the scenes with the owner trying to sell,
well,
then you've got to give Tom Cleverley a bunch of credit.
Yeah, the owner that's trying to buy it is John Textor, who owns Crystal Palace. But the problem is what's just happened in France. Lyon are now provisionally being relegated.
I've seen that.
So that is a huge question. Does the Portsmouth family want to sell to him after what he's done to Lyon of screwing that round? So
that comes down to the EFL, because whoever's selling Watford will just want the biggest amount of money possible. They won't, like, as much as you want to think when your football club gets sold, the person selling it's got the best interest. If we're honest, they're just a businessman who wants to get the biggest deal possible.
Yeah,
that comes down to the EFL to make sure that it goes into like proper and safe hands.
Which proper owners test.
Yeah.
To be
So
honest, I think the people probably care with the club's interest at heart if it aligns with them financially.
yeah,
Sorry, Annie, go on. I know it's a cynical way of looking at it, but yeah, it's probably accurate.
I was just going to say, if Watford continue their home record and we extrapolate that for the rest of the season, they'll get 62 points at home, which is... And I think they got something like that when they were promoted last time in the Championship. They got like 59 or something when they got promoted during COVID. So whenever Watford do get promoted in recent years, they've got a really, really good home record. But yeah, I think Tom Cleverley's done a ridiculously good job at stabilising and getting the best out of what is it's a pretty decent squad. Like, it's got some good players in there, like Chak Padata, Matty Pollock, Ebasele has been really good and shiny at international stage as well. So there are some good players in there. But the likes of Vakun Bayo and Ryan Andrews, he's really gotten the best out of as well. So yeah, tip of the hat to Tom Cleverley, because he's done really, really well with a squad that's maybe should just be about mid-table.
They've given themselves room for a bit of a blip now, haven't they?
Yeah.
Not too much, obviously, but like because you've got to look at it this way. Again, the league's that tight where they're 10 points above 22nd, because within a few results that can change. But yeah, Watford have kind of put themselves in a picture where if they lose a few games, as long as they win the odd game and win enough, then they're more than fine. And I think, again, when the club's in turmoil behind the scenes, that's incredibly difficult to do. So again, as we said, all the credit to what Cleverley's ended up doing. And who knows, he might be the first Watford boss to complete a season in Vicarage Road. Who knows? We'll see what ends up happening with that one.
I can't see them staying sixth. I know to put a little bit of a dampener on it.
No, I can't either.
Not with their goal record they have, because they're on 1 at the moment, and there's other teams who've got the same, like five ahead or 6 goals ahead. So yeah.
And by the way, that goal difference would have took a massive upswing by beating Chef Webb 6-2. So
yeah,
it's like when you look at the teams nearabouts with them, Middlesbrough, I think, are probably better prepared for that top 6 battle.
Yeah,
I think Millwall, as well as they're doing, I can't see that lasting. And
put it this way. I think the team who's probably right below, with the exception of Borough, I would say the team, if you look at the teams in the top half, the team that's probably most better prepared to finish ahead of Watford, apart from Borough, is probably Bristol City, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I know he doesn't like to hear that, but like, if you look at it, Blackburn are starting to level out a bit. Millwall have done tremendously with Neil Harris, but I don't think they'll be strong enough to maintain that over the whole season. Swansea, well, they went through about a 6-hour goalless drought, didn't they? Which I know
9 hours.
Sorry?
9 hours.
9 hours, I think.
Yeah. Well, either way, and then you've got, what is it, Derby in 12th. Okay, granted, to be fair, the league's very, ridiculously close, but Derby, they're in staying up. The ones I'd probably say, you look at the likes of Norwich, Coventry, I think they're the two that you're looking at as ones that would probably surge up the league, or should surge up the league, I should say. What, you don't like Norwich? You don't like Norwich, Ant? Oh, come on,
mate. Norwich are great.
I know, I'm taking the mick out of you, man.
Coventry need to worry more about playing the likes of QPR and Portsmouth before they start looking up the table.
Flagrant disrespect.
I actually kind of just want to hear and talk about Coventry, but
I know.
I'm all for it.
We'll get on to Coventry in a bit, I promise you.
Well, we need to talk about Coventry because of the off-field stuff, don't we?
Yeah, I want to let Annie have the floor with Bristol City.
Go on then, Annie. What end of the spectrum are you going to fall on this week? They're mint and score mint goals, or they're absolutely rubbish and they have no chance of anything?
Yeah.
Which one?
We're pretty good. I mean, we're playing quite well. I mean, it's...
Because Norwich's first home defeat Carrow Road in over a year.
Yeah, I mean, it's all right. It's not bad, is it? Yeah, and in the build-up to that game, I constantly heard, Norwich have a lot of injuries. They're missing key players. And absolutely they are. Sargent, Nunez, McLean, Angus Gunn. They were missing a lot of key players. We were without Rob Dickey, Scott Twine, and Joe Williams and George Tanner. That's 4 key players for us. So equally, we had a right wing back playing. We had a centre attacking midfielder playing at right wing back against board signs.
That says a lot about how threadbare your squad is at that point, doesn't it?
Yeah. So
who's playing a right wing back or attacking midfielder, mate?
Yeah, so considering that and the fact that we navigated ball signs really well in that game, just as credit to Liam Manning. And funnily enough, well, maybe not funnily enough, but in a kind of a weird way, since that dreadful news of Manning's son passing away, we've actually looked like a lot more of a unit in terms of defensive sense. We've looked a lot more spirited, and we look like a team all of a sudden. And maybe that is some sort of psychological thing that I'm not aware of, but we've gotten a lot better in recent weeks and look a lot better defensively. And I think I remember coming on here I think when we lost 3-0 at Blackburn and going, Christ, this team cannot defend to save their lives. Like, we look so out of place, getting dragged around completely. But then we've got a lot better. McNally settled in. He's like Luke McNally. If he doesn't play in the Premier League like in the next 5 years, I'll be astonished. The bloke's ridiculously good at defending. He reminds me of Nathan Collins a little bit. Just really settled. He's just a really good defender. Maybe not the best on the ball, but just a really good defender. So having quality players like him, massively helpful. And then once you get, your Scott Twines back, a right back into the team will be nice. Any right back will do. A left back will do as well. That would be nice. I don't have any of those at the moment. And then, you have a fit midfield of Joe Williams, Jason Knight, Max Bird, and Marcus McGuane. Like, that is seriously good midfield options to have. And then, having Naki Wells up front, scoring goals at the moment. Is that sustainable? Maybe, maybe not. But then if Naki Wells is not scoring goals, we've got Sinclair Armstrong and you've got Fanny Mayulu on the bench who are, if not equally adequate, to come in and step in and score goals. So I think from our perspective, it's been a good start. I think what we all wanted this season was one of progress. And if we didn't get into the top six, it was, are we showing signs that we are a team that is capable of finishing in the top six in the not so distant future? And I think we're showing signs of that. And I think that's a massive credit to Liam Manning, and that's a massive credit to the squad, because if you look at it, if you look at the kind of the core of this squad, it's not an old squad, and we haven't got any superstars in there. Haven't got looking at Sunderland and looking at Jack Clark or whatever, and an Archie Gray or something. It's like one standout player. We haven't really got that at the moment. We've got 11 players of good championship adequate quality who are probably just on the peripheries of the top six, and if on their day they play well, and if that day happens enough, we'll be in the top six. But that's difficult to imagine. And yeah, I'd say we're in a top six race for the time being, but it's incredibly difficult to sustain that for the duration of the season. And I think we'll find that difficult to sustain as well. And I think it'll be pretty difficult for us to actually get in there. But for now, pretty happy, and just kind of taking along.
Do you think, would your perspective of Bristol City in the playoffs be similar to what mine is with Sunderland with top two, where wait and see when January comes and see if you're still in the conversation, and then maybe in January push the boat out a little bit more to try and make that happen to a degree? Obviously, again, without splashing at it and going for it and risking putting yourselves in FFP difficulty.
I'm going to be honest. I think we'll be in a playoff conversation come January. I think that's probably.
Yeah, I'd say so.
I think that's probably going to happen, considering if you look at the run of fixtures we've just had, and the two after the international break we're going to have Burnley at home and then Watford away. That's two really difficult games. But then just before that, we've had the likes of Sheffield United, Middlesbrough, Leeds, Norwich away. Some really, really tricky games in there. And then after that, we have some really kind of on paper relatively nice fixtures. I'm thinking Pompey. I think we played Plymouth a couple of times, and then Derby as well in there, Luton. Teams now down near the bottom, so it will be interesting to see how we get on against them teams. And then if we keep performing the way we have been, and Liam Manning is known for this. Like Liam Manning is known at Oxford, he did it at MK Dons, he did it in League One. Yes, not in the Championship, but he went on extended, like ridiculously long periods of time, like 20, 25 games where his team's only lost 1 or 2 games. They're really, really hard to beat, and we're showing signs of that. We've only lost 1 game in 10, and that came in the 98th minute against a team who will probably be in the top 3 at least in this season. So, and we had 10 men, so no shame in that. And if you extrapolate that, I think it's like 3 defeats in 23 games or something. So if we can keep that consistency going and get to January and find ourselves very much in a conversation for the playoffs, and I'm assuming here that it's the same sort of teams in the conversation, like Blackburn, like Middlesbrough, like Millwall, if we're assuming that's the case by January as well, I don't see much reason why we can't finish above a Blackburn or a Millwall like over the duration of the season. And I wouldn't say we're too far off them. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how we fare for the rest of the season. But I'm positively optimistic, and if it doesn't happen this season, I'm very much thinking, right, January, can we strengthen? Probably. Next summer, can we strengthen? Definitely. So it will be interesting to see how this kind of this plays out longer term rather than just this season. Can we get in the top 6 or not?
Yeah, well, I was going to ask for both Karl and Annie then. I don't think I was Karl this. If you had to grade your club's starts out of 10, what'd you give it?
I give Leeds around 7.5 at the moment. I think we, compared to last season, we were a lot. I would have loaded the fat 4 or 5. I think we're a little bit better where we are. There's still a few more improvements we could do, especially with away form. But I think we're just where we're at the moment with the players that we got, and we'll see what happens in January, because I think we are going to be looking at get a few bodies in January. That is what I've been hearing. I know there's been some changes in the boardroom with 1 or 2 of the director, with the sporting director, but I think I'm happy where I am at the moment with Leeds at the moment, because at least we are not not a lot of points behind compared to where we were last season.
And Annie?
Yeah, I'd go with 7.5. I think if we were in the top 6, I think it'd be probably an 8 or an 8.5. But I'd say I'd expected us to be in this sort of situation for the duration of the season, and where we were a couple of weeks ago, which was about like 17th or 15th or whatever it was, like bottom half. Is nowhere near good enough. So yeah, probably about expected, which I'm sure was the same case for Leeds as well. Around where we should be.
Agreed. Right. Let's come to the main topic. I think we need to have. That's why we had Ant here to join us, and I'm gonna put you in the spotlight because I feel like you want to say a lot of stuff about Coventry. So,
Brilliant!
You know what? The floor is yours.
Got another drink just for this. Where's all those Coventry fans gone in pre-season saying that they're going to win the league and that they're selling Premier League season tickets? The only question now is which stadium is the Mark Robin statue getting put at? Is it going to be the CBS? Is it going to be St Andrews? Or is it going to be Sixfields? Oh, I'm absolutely buzzed. Honest. I'll be looking more over my shoulder than looking forward if I was a Coventry fan.
Do you know what I'm going to do for you, actually? I'm going to do this sound effects, sound effect you like. Especially it's the triplex.
So we talk about
that was the perfect choice of sound effects.
Let's look at his big games recently. Lost in the playoff final. Lost at Wembley to Man United. Championship manager at best. Should have kept him. He would be good for a relegation battle. There you go. I'm buzzing now. I've had my say.
Oh God. Can you tell that Ant's just had all that pent up, and he's just been waiting to release it, and then boom, it all explodes.
That's why that sound effect was fun. No, this is gonna come in. This is gonna come in handy with this. So.
Magically, all around me, where I was, when Cov were at Wembley, Cov tops everywhere. I haven't seen one of them for ages. It's just like before they got to the playoff finals, all their fans have disappeared magically and now go to games as blue seats.
Blue seats. Bloody hell. I believe this sound effect's appropriate. No, not that one. This one.
I do have that as well, actually.
Yeah, it would have been better if you'd played it, to be fair.
I know.
Okay, then.
All I heard from Cov fans before the season started is that they're going up, but they're going to be challenging the top two. Humble yourself. Oxford United are above you, and they're probably a bigger club than you.
Carl's, I don't know who's having more fun here, Ant or Karl. Okay.
Oh,
right.
Callum O'Hare's made a backwards move. Look at the table. I think he's gone forward, and he's actually playing in front of fans now. I applaud Callum O'Hare. He's finally gone to a big club. Can't even blame him for rejecting his contract. I hope next weekend he goes to your Singer's Corner. Can we just have a word about how tragic that is? It's only because they fill one corner of the ground. Straight over there, into the corner, celebrating.
Now imagine the scenes: Coventry versus Leicester, FA Cup third round. Coventry 1, Leicester 0, dying minutes of the game.
Oh no, that'll be another cup final that Coventry have won, but when it actually comes to anything important, they bottle it.
Karl, I was getting overkill.
But on a positive spin for like the successful teams in Coventry, Wasps are reforming, so they will have like a certain level of heritage coming back to Coventry.
Oh my god!
Oh my god!
Don't worry.
Anything else? While you let stuff off your chest?
Don't worry.
Oh,
They've only got 4 fans anyway. It's fine. None of them will be watching this. And I don't even think they've developed.
You think? Yeah. Listen, if they come up to Edinburgh, they probably could come kill me. I have to send them down to you. So
that sound.
Send them to Jamie Vardy.
But no, in all seriousness, like joking aside. No, I'm not even finished yet. I'm really I'm really enjoying this. All I heard all summer is enjoy your points deduction. How's that going for you, lads? How's that going? Callum Doyle.
I mean, to be fair to them, Callum Doyle, how many points is he above them at the minute? Like 1 point? No, sorry, 2 points.
2 points, and he's a championship winner.
Right. Okay then.
This is all for.
I think one of us is going to have to talk, otherwise this is going to go on forever.
I know.
So, Mark Robbins.
I'm having a good time.
Right, let's just stay with Coventry, because in the group chat that we're all in, when Sunderland were 2-0 up against them at half time, Ant was going, and it's on Del. I'm like, yes, I wish I could sing, mate, but unfortunately this is Coventry. They turn into Manchester City whenever they play us, and look what happened second half. So, okay, to ask an objective question for Colin and Annie in particular, where did you guys expect Coventry to be at the start of the season? Because in my table predictions, I'll put them to finish 4th, I think.
I think I'm 5th or 6th, something like that.
Yeah, I had that for between 6 as well. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't. Yeah, well, why are you looking? I've said all along, right? I think obviously the decision to sack Mark Robbins is the big sort of issue. Depending on what you believe, what is it? Doug King, their owner, I believe.
Dave King.
Sorry?
Doug King, yeah.
Oh, Doug King.
King, okay. I was going to say, cheers, Carl. You're trying to get me confused.
Listen, I know his last name's King, right? I just didn't know which,
Oh, he's a king, just needs a queen at his side.
Yeah.
But anyway, so if you look at what he said, apparently him and his assistant that he had that left in the summer apparently had a big falling out with each other. apparently there was a bit of disruption behind the scenes. And if you're going based off that, then you
Absolute
could
nonsense.
Sorry?
I think that's complete nonsense, to be honest.
Well, I'm not. Hey, I'm just saying if whatever I've heard.
Yeah.
But okay, when you look at the squad Coventry's got, Ant's going to probably make some sort of joke in a minute. But like, if you actually look at it being serious, the squad Coventry's got, it shouldn't be anywhere near where it is. For me, it's an absolute travesty that team has started as poorly as it has. When you look just off the top of my head, Eccles, Sheaf, Sakamoto, Wright, Sims, Thomas Asante, just to name 6 of the players that are there, they should be doing better than what they are. But obviously, a lot of it for me hinges on who do they appoint next. I know who Ant wants to get the job. I imagine he'd love Frank Lampard to go, or even if Steve Cooper gets sacked and then goes to Coventry. I don't know. Actually, that'll be one for Ant. I bet you. Would Steve Cooper become a legend in your eyes if he left Hughes and then went to Coventry and took them down to League One?
No, he'd just find a job more at his level. Like, joking aside with Cov, because I've got a lot of mates who are Cov fans. They were talking at the start of this season about being towards the top end of the championship. They've got Ellis Sims, Haji Wright, Ben Sheep. They've got a good core of a solid championship squad. They shouldn't be anywhere near where they are. And I say this through gritted teeth, but I think that sacking Mark Robins will be one of those decisions that you look at in a few years where it's like, yeah, it was harsh at the time, but it was probably the right decision. Because they've spent a lot of money in the summer. Let's have it right. They've spent a lot of money. They should be pushing towards the back end of the table, top end of the table. There's only so far loyalty gets you, and it's like, as much as Coventry would probably be playing like Forest Green and stuff like that without Mark Robins, they are a different club now than they were a few years ago. And the amount of money they spent, the fact that they put Premier League season tickets on, I don't know if you guys have seen this, they put like Premier League season tickets on sale. It's like, you can't have that level of sort of marketing and ambition saying push high, aim high, and then say, oh, we're doing all right what are they? I just need to double check.
17th. Yeah, they're 17th in the league, 1 point outside the relegation zone.
I was more waiting for that second line. When you're 1 line above relegation zone.
Well, yeah, 1 point, I should say.
But
yeah.
you can't be selling like these of this.
It's talk the talk and not walking the walk, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the problem. And I think with Coventry, look, I guess you get onto the conversation of, I get what Anne's saying, to be fair. Like, I mean, look, Mark Robins, I've always said, like, I know a lot of Coventry fans, the Coventry fans I've spoken to or interacted with.
I know a lot of Coventry fans. I didn't know a lot of them existed.
Yeah, one of them
single digit.
I don't burn man.
Yeah, one of his channels is called Ant's Coventry Fan Channel. Have you heard of it? It's a really.
I can't swear.
Okay then.
I can't say what I want to say, Michael.
Okay then, right. I'll finish. Right. Okay. I think with Coventry, if you're gonna have a decision like this, sacking Mark Robins, then you need to back it up with a really, really good appointment. You need to back it up with someone who's gonna progress them to the next level. And I get what Anne's saying. Like, the Coventry fans I've interacted with since, a lot of them have said they weren't very happy at the decision. And some of them were so unhappy with the decision, they thought we would absolutely steamroll them in the game before the international break. Now, taking that game aside, Coventry, for me, could take a lot of heart from that game, where you take a point away at the league leaders and from 2-0 down as well. Like, that can only the second team after Leeds to get something at the Stadium of Light. So it just hinges for me on. I don't know what you think, Karl. For me, it hinges on this next appointment for them. This next appointment's got potential to either really work or fall flat on their arse.
I know, and that's what I was about to show.
Is this a joke thing that? Oh, okay.
No, it's genuine.
It's genuine.
Who's it from? The Athletic?
No, it's Sam C, who is he works for Mark Goldbridge in the United Stand, but he gets a lot of information. Because I know United Stand's obviously Manchester based, but Sam C is Birmingham based, so he gets a lot of the Midlands news.
Right. Oh well, actually, based on his you can say about Twitter followers, whatever you want.
And also,
143,000 followers. So there must be something in that.
There is, because the owner has close ties with the Redknapp family, which is Frank's.
Oh yeah, it is trending now. Well, okay
He-
then. So, right,
Gerrard's
let's get this out of the way because I know Ant's going to have a laugh at this. What are
Right.
your thoughts on Lampard being in advanced talks apparently for the Coventry job?
Well, I always thought Gerrard was better than him. I always thought Scholes was better than him. So glad that's sorted. We've got a nice chippy, Binley Mega Chippy, down the road for him. In terms of managerial jobs, I hope it goes absolutely horrendously.
Not in their next game, I don't, but after that, it can.
No, I hope Callum O'Hare's straight over to that corner like this.
Yeah, he does that, and then Sheffield United go down to 9 men, and then Coventry beat them 3-1, and they help Sunderland and Leeds out.
I know.
No, this is the one game I'm not behind you guys. I'm sorry.
That's fair enough.
All right.
Fine. As long as you win on the 14th of December, then I can get behind that.
Yeah.
Mate, I've got the same feeling for them lot as you do for Newcastle.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
Okay. But right, joking aside, so yeah, Frank Lampard's a funny one. Like, in fact, I remember I think we were very, and I'm talking off forums, so this is probably a load of shit. But like, we were very, very loosely talked about with Frank Lampard coming, and I was kind of like, not for me. It didn't strike me as. I get it. Like, I think the one season where I think he actually did all right was probably his first year at Chelsea, and I know he had a lot of good players there. But when you think about it, they were under a transfer embargo, couldn't sign anyone, and were relying on Tammy Abraham, who is a good player, but at that point was untested at Premier League level, and they got in the top 4. But when he's had money to spend and when he's had bigger expectations on him, it's just not gone well. You look at that Derby team he had the first year for his first job. Like, that Derby team just scraped the playoffs, didn't they? And they really should have been higher than that with the team that they had at the time.
They should have walked for league. But you say about that top 4 season. I talked to Lewis. Do you know Carefree Lewis, who's a Chelsea fan? A lot.
Yes.
And he says that first season that Lampard was in, he was very lucky that there was no fans in the ground.
Oh, yeah. Forgot that.
Because he was saying that as much as it's Frank Lampard, Chelsea's a ruthless job, and it's like they wouldn't have put up with half of the crap that they did.
But yeah, and I'm guessing they only did because he was Frank Lampard and he was a Chelsea legend in terms of his playing days.
Well, as soon as fans were in the ground, he was sacked 3 months later.
That probably does say quite a lot then.
Yeah.
Well, for me, I just can't believe that. I think Frank Lampard's an example of, again, as a player, brilliant. But as a manager, though, like a head coach,
it's just a name because of the name.
Well, it's the same situation as Wayne Rooney and to a lesser degree Steven Gerrard. It's the same situation where it's, look, if I'm going to play devil's advocate for Frank Lampard for a second, just to try and add a bit of balance. Correct me if I'm wrong, hasn't Frank Lampard been a manager at his previous clubs? Maybe not so much Everton, but I mean, when Derby was a manager, I believe he was. And I'm sure he was Chelsea manager at that stage.
Twice. He was permanent manager when he got in, and then he went back as interim manager after, yeah.
Right, okay. So my argument is, and I'm not saying that I think he's going to do a good job, because I'm not convinced that he probably will. But I would say that at Coventry, apparently he would be. One of the reasons Mark Robbins was sacked apparently was because they want to move towards the head coach system as opposed to just a manager. Now, if you know what the head coach system implies, it basically means that the director of football or sporting director is the one that's scouting. Well, they have scouts scouting the players, and the sporting director signs the players, and the head coach has to work with what's there. That can go one of two ways. That can either relieve Lampard of responsibility for recruiting players, but it also will expose him as a coach massively in that when he's given someone's players to work with and to see what he can do. But on the flip side, with Coventry, I've said all along, if you look at, like you said, we've named Eccles, Sheaf, Sakamoto, De Silva, Wright, Sims, Asante. He's not got an excuse, has he? Like, let's be honest, that squad he's got should be challenging for the playoffs. In my opinion.
I bet he's got more Chelsea players in January. The players coming from
that's
Chelsea.
Also, yeah, there could be good Chelsea connections for Coventry in January, but the point is,
have a lot of the Chelsea connections that were there before, because it's, again, I talk to Lewis a lot, because it's a very different Chelsea now than it was when Lampard was there. Because it's not Abramovich's Chelsea where they've got 1,000,001 loan players.
Well, he was there briefly when the new owners came in on after got sacked.
Wasn't he there in that in-between area where it was before it was Bowley, but once Abramovich had no control of the club anymore?
No, it was actually when Bowley just come in.
Okay. Like, even if it is completely sort of different behind the scenes and that, just Lampard's name and loan is enough. If he needs a loan player from Chelsea, he'll probably get it. But that's not enough for him to do a good job in the Championship. I'm sorry. We saw it with Harry Wilson and Mason. The fact he had Harry Wilson and Mason Mount and still didn't win the Championship with like that Derby team.
Yeah, or the very least, he didn't get promoted, did he? Like, obviously, he got the playoff final, but that's like, I mean, to be fair, it was against Aston Villa, but like the point is, you shouldn't be scraping into the playoffs with the team that you had then.
Yeah.
So I think, and the Coventry, yeah, I mean, they're like 9 points off the top 6, I think.
And
so obviously,
three.
Are you not milking that at all? Are you? I'm surprised Karl didn't play the blue sound noise yet.
I'm holding off on that one carefully. So.
Oh, okay. So you're going to wait until Andy gets an especially bad dig, and
Yeah.
then you'll get right. Okay then. All right then. I'm guessing neither of you see this appointment as going anywhere, on a positive note for Coventry. Because I know Anne probably would have said, "Well, it's going somewhere. It just would have been going to the Wham Stadium next season."
No, to be fair, I think it'll offer them stability, and I don't think that they're going to push for like promotion and this, that, and the other. But I don't joking aside. If Mark Robins was to stay at Cov, take away the fact it's Mark Robins and he's been there for however many years, the way they're playing, could you genuinely say with your chest that they were going to stay up?
What, for Coventry?
Yeah, the way that they've been performing.
Yes.
Yeah.
But that's not because of them. It's more because I think there will be worse teams than them.
So yeah. I agree in the same lines as that as well.
Yeah.
Because...
Which, by the way, for the squad Coventry have got, isn't acceptable, really. They shouldn't be in this conversation for me to begin with. But if you're asking me, do I think they'll stay up? Yeah. I think they'll be. I think in the end they won't be in any danger of getting relegated. But it all depends. But again, it's because mainly I'm thinking of the likes of Plymouth. I think Oxford might fall away a little bit. Portsmouth, possibly QPR. I think Cardiff might do all right, to be fair. But I think you look at the other ones. There's a good handle of teams that are worse than them. But again, for Coventry to be in that conversation for me is really poor.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Well, what do you think then? Take your bias out of it. What do you think?
No. I'm going to take my bias out of it. The way that they're playing and have been, I don't think you can categorically say they won't get relegated. But they've got enough individual quality that they shouldn't be in that conversation. But as a hypothetical, say they get to the summer and they're still not in the top 6, not challenging for promotion, haven't gone up. How many of those players that are Premier League level or Premier League sort of standard players that they claim that they've got stick around? Because I think there's enough players there that will move on who will want to take that next step, whether that's with Coventry or not.
I think the likes of Haji Wright, Eccles, possibly Ben Sheaf, I think they would all probably go. I think Ellis Sims, as much as I like Ellis Sims, I don't know if I would view him as any better than Championship level.
Yeah.
I think he's a solid Championship player, a solid Championship striker, and I still, to an extent, wish we'd signed him. But I wouldn't view. I think Sims would stay because of the fact I don't think he'd get many better suitors, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Whereas the other players I've just mentioned, Sakamoto's another one, I could seed him potentially.
Van Eyck.
Good level. The problem is now.
Come to that, yeah.
But the problem you've got there is, if then those players move on, and in particular if they move on within a couple of windows, it's another bit of a rebuild, isn't it? And then all of a sudden with Doug King, he's then going to be under even more scrutiny when you're advertising Premier League and wanting to get there. And that should have been the aim. But you can't. But if you're doing that, then you
can't be selling Premier League season tickets.
No, you can't. But that's the point. If you're going to do that, you have to back it up with your actions on the pitch itself in games. Yeah. Whereas if you're going to say that and then you're going from that to having to transition again, then Coventry. I know we talk about and makes jokes about how many Coventry fans are there, but the ones that are there will start to lose patience, and to an extent, I can't blame them.
To be fair, they didn't specify what Premier League, did they? It might be the Rugby Premier League coming back with Wasps.
There we go. All right, then. I'll ask you this, because if it's okay with you, Karl, I'd like to try and maybe whiz through a couple. There's a question I was going to ask about the teams that aren't in the bottom 3 before we start to move on to the bottom 3 teams.
Sure.
Do you guys think Coventry... Let's put it this way. Do you think Coventry will finish higher or lower than where they are now at the end of the season?
I think they'll finish higher, but not much higher.
Yeah. I'd say yeah.
Okay, do you see them getting top half, for example?
No.
So 12th or above?
No.
I could see them maybe getting between 11th and 14th, 15th, possibly, if they appoint Frank Lampard.
Yeah,
What a great Premier League season that is.
Well,
top
it's
of
obviously it's nothing to have
bottom half. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not enough for them to have a shout about, but I think they will pull clear, but it's still not. It's not a good
It's probably
season,
their
really.
third most successful season in the last 2 decades. I don't know why they wouldn't be shouting about it.
Oh, true. You would say that.
I know.
It's actually not wrong either.
Well, yeah, but yeah, no. Joking aside, yeah, I mean, with Coventry, it's to be fair, Rand, you'll get on with a lot of Sunderland fans. A lot of some of our fans don't like Coventry. I personally,
I'm looking more and more forward to this night out in Sunderland. I can't lie.
What? Well, all right then. I'm going to try see if I can get to Coventry away. I'll see if you want to sneak you a ticket in the away end then, if you're not playing that day.
Sounds like a plan.
There you go. Right. Well, I'll ask Carl's question about the other teams. Like, is there anyone between 7th and 21st? Because I know the leagues. In fact, there is a couple of teams I probably think we should mention. I think you mentioned the likes of, off the top of my head, I mean, another underachiever, Luton. Luton, who are 21st. I mean, that's another example. If you think Coventry underperforming, Luton definitely are, having just come down from the Premier League.
I think Luton will not be anywhere above Coventry. I think with Rob Edwards at the moment, with his future on the line, I can't see him being there in the next 2 weeks or so.
Yeah. Do you think then, whether Rob Edwards stays or not, do you think Luton will be in a relegation battle this season?
I think they'll.
Or do you think they'll do enough to pull away from it, but not enough to challenge for the playoffs?
I think they'll just, like you say, they'll pull away just because of the individual quality they've got in that squad.
Yeah.
But I don't think that individual quality only gets you so far. You need a
team.
A team
ethos. Yeah. That's fair enough.
Do you think as well, like everyone talked about the team element at Luton, in the Premier League, how like they weren't good enough in the end, but they really had a go at staying up. Do you think that taste of Premier League and then the fact they've come back down and most of those will be on cut wages now, do you think there's a few too many big time Charlies in that Luton team?
Yeah, I was saying that in my group chat with my friends Douglas and the two Andrews, and we were talking about that. Yeah, that's what, and we did say the logs like that. I think it is this few. Yeah,
the biggest problem for me with Luton, as I've said this loads of times, is that this is the first season where Luton aren't underdogs anymore. They're coming into the league with genuine expectation on their shoulders, and I think a lot of them, as well as Rob Edwards, is probably struggling to adapt to that. Because let's be honest, when he came in at Luton, were they expected to go up? They would have liked to, and they would have wanted to be in that conversation, but was it an expectation? No, it probably wasn't. Was it an expectation that they stayed up? No, it wasn't. This time, there's an expectation, I think, to be at least in the top 6. Even if not say top, or at least challenging for playoffs, which, again, could still happen, but you would need to obviously go on a hell of a winning run in order to do that at this point. And at the minute, if you look at like Luton, I mean, they got battered 5-1 at Borough, which, granted, to be fair, losing away at Middlesbrough is no shame, but losing by that scoreline is a shame. It's not.
It's how you lose games of football, though.
Yeah, exactly. It's not. It's no fight there, really, is it? And I've said before, when Sunderland went to Luton, I think away from home, when we've gone away, I think Luton's been the best team that's played against us by a mile. So what's happened between then and what's happening now since? So I don't know whether it's a confidence thing at Luton. I don't know whether it's an application thing. I don't know whether it's dealing with expectations or whether there's too many people that think they're now at the Premier League and because they've tasted it, they want to go back there.
It's a combination of everything.
Yeah.
Well, that was another thing, because if, say, there are too many players that go there thinking, oh, I could be in the Premier League here, well, you need to perform like it, and then you're more likely to get into the Premier League.
I do think, though, what you say about last season in the Premier League, they did all right. I think last season gave a bit of a false image because they were still comfortably relegated, I believe, by 8 points. Everton had a points deduction. Forest had a points deduction.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, if there was no points down, they would have been relegated by 12 points. That's
a good shout. Yeah, that's fair enough.
It's a good shout. Yeah, no, that's a good point. Yeah.
Well,
I don't think there's that quality in their team that people think there is, because it was relatively close in the end with relegation. But it's like, if you scrape below the surface, it's like, actually, you were relegated quite comfortably.
Mm.
Well, okay then. So do you guys think Rob Edwards is in charge of Luton come the new year?
Yeah.
Just about, yes.
Yeah.
I think they give him a January transfer window.
Well, I'm looking at the games coming up for Luton, right? So I think the game that screams out to me, Hull at home next Saturday, massive. That's got to be a must-win, surely, if you're Luton. Obviously, Leeds away, that's probably an anomaly.
Yeah, that's going to be a big game for them because I think they're not going to be very pressuring us.
They're not going to certainly not going to be fancied at Ellen Road, put it that
No.
way. Norwich away, possibly depending on Norwich's injury situation, but if they've got a couple of players back, probably not. Then you've got Swansea, Stoke, Blackburn, Derby, Bristol City, Swansea again. Like, they've got to get some wins before that. Or it could be, do the owners think, we've had a good time with Rob Edwards, let's get rid of him and get someone else in before January comes along, so they've got a chance to get some players in.
Money, and they're willing to spend that money as well because of the
Well, yeah, the new stadium. That's another problem. So, yeah,
I think Steve Cooper would do a fantastic job at Luton.
I'll tell you what, you get Eddie Howe, Steve Cooper goes to Newcastle. Happy days, sorted.
I mean,
that one I could give it all to that one, Michael, because
yeah, that's more set out of like hope than any actual expectation, to be fair. But yeah, it did deserve that. Well, okay, I'll quick another one. Is there anyone that's sort of started better? Let's do the opposite. Is there anyone who started better than you thought they would?
Oxford.
That we haven't talked about yet.
Oxford have really impressed me.
Yeah, Oxford and Derby County, probably the two teams I expect to start that well.
I think Oxford's one of those that, yes, their management's brilliant, this, that, and the other. But you look at the individual quality in their squad, they don't have a huge amount of it, apart from Ben Nelson, England's future centre-back, who may or may not be on loan from Leicester. I've forgotten that bit. Mm-hmm. But, joking aside, you look at their team, there's not a huge amount of quality or like
obvious championship quality.
Yeah.
No. I'd say Tariki Dembele is a decent signing. I'd say Poheta, I think the former Swansea winger who used to be at Norwich, he's all right. I would say Cameron Brannigan, I think he's their main man. So obviously he's out injured at the minute. Mark Harris, Dane Scarlett's doing decently on loan from Tottenham. So yeah, I would say from Oxford, and I think similar to Derby in some ways, because with Derby, the expectation's slightly bigger at Derby than it is Oxford, and it's big for Paul Horne because every time he's been in that league with Anne's second favourite club ever, Rotherham United, they've ended up getting relegated. So he's had a full season at championship level. So whereas now he's got the resources to be able to should have better resources to keep Derby up. So, but from both Derby and Oxford, the point is with both of them, it's again about home form. Like a lot of that's where it's going to. If you can, I mean, Derby have won away recently, away at Coventry, which I'm sure will love to bits. But they've generally done well at home. Oxford, I think they lost their first home game within the last few matches before the international break against Swansea. So, yeah, I think both of them are relying on their home form a bit. But I think generally, I think both sets of fan bases, yeah, okay, the league's tight, but I think both of them would have probably taken where they are in terms of, like, say, points tallies they've got so far. I think another team I'd probably talk about briefly is maybe Middlesbrough, because we haven't really mentioned them much yet. But if you're talking about Middlesbrough as a... Because Middlesbrough scored, 9 goals, I think, in their previous 2 games before the international break. But there is a bit of caveats to the fact it's QPR away and Luton at home, both of whom are really struggling at the minute. But to be fair, I mean, haven't Middlesbrough got, here's the XG hipster stuff coming out again, but like, haven't they got one of the highest XGs for in the championship, Middlesbrough?
Yeah.
Like I think it's it themselves, possibly along like Leeds, I think, that are guilty of missing the most big chances in the game.
Yeah, so Leeds a top with XG actual is mine is XG was 1.64. Middlesbrough was like 0.2 behind us as well, and with Coventry third. Yeah.
Well, then there you go. So that's going to be. Do you guys see Middlesbrough finishing in the top 6?
Yeah.
Yes, I do actually.
I think if it was, and I'm guessing it's going to be in place of Watford, unless obviously Corberan leaves West Brom.
It's one of those two, yeah. But mainly, I think if it goes, I think they will do. If not, I think it's what they'll.
Yeah, I think
Watford.
Because for me, Borough, I think the teams you'd expect to probably compete with them when they get players back. Well, whatever we say joking about Coventry, you'd expect them. You would have expected them to be competing around there. You'd expect Norwich to once you get Kenny McLean, Angus Gunn, Josh Sargent, and all that back for them. So Middlesbrough are probably quite fortunate that they could possibly build up a gap ahead of someone like Norwich, while they've still got the injuries and while they're not performing as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think with Middlesbrough, if they start learning to put their chances away, yes. because I've seen a lot of the story of their season when there hasn't been going well is miss big chances, tails fall off, go behind, not respond, blah 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 blah. But to be fair, the last 2 games they're the most recent games, so you have to acknowledge that they've got 9 goals in the previous 2 games. They've got the quality certainly to finish in the top 6. It's just a matter of whether they turn the domination of games into results.
Yeah.
Very quickly, what do you reckon about I can't believe I'm saying this, Wayne Rooney's Plymouth being 18th? Again, though, 1 point above the bottom 3.
Well, it seems like he's spending more time than spending time with his wife for what she said on I'm a Celebrity, so than what Colleen said. So yeah.
Just whilst you're on the topic of Rooney's wife, did you see Rebecca Vardy having another pop at her? So I love Jamie Vardy, but I wish someone would just shut Rebecca up.
I've not heard about it, but I had a feeling.
I heard she had an interview, but I haven't seen the interview. If that makes sense, I haven't seen the full thing.
To be fair, I need Vardy to start firing. So if some away fans could start singing about his missus, it might be ideal. just someone take a microphone away.
To be fair, that is something that does tend to rile Jamie Vardy up, isn't it? It gets him motivated, gets him. Yeah. So he does tend to respond to that sort of thing.
But back to Plymouth, I think they're just about where you'd expect them to be, like there or thereabouts in the relegation zone. But it feels like for Rooney, this is now or never for management, because if it fails at Plymouth, then
good luck finding a decent job somewhere else. Yeah, I think I would agree with that. I think, again, with Plymouth, it's really one, because the problem you've got with Plymouth is I think they drew against Derby last weekend away from home, and that was only their second away point of the season. You cannot go the whole season and just rely on your home form to keep you up. You need to get, even if you're not going to get as many points on the road, but if you get, say, 4 or 5 wins away from home, something like that, it tallies up, it makes a difference. So,
do you think, because last season Morgan Whittaker massively overperformed his XG, didn't he?
Yeah.
Do you think that's catching up with him this season? Because he's got 2 goals this season, hasn't he?
I think it has, after the expectation of him, because we all thought, I think, was it January when there was talk when Aston Villa got Morgan Rogers, and there were people saying, "Oh, you should have got Morgan Whittaker," and I'm like, not really. I think they've got the right Morgan. Yeah.
Possibly. I mean, I would say to them, to be fair, one of the players I've been really impressed with them, and apparently he's injured at the minute, is Ibrahim Sissoko, who plays on the opposite flank. Who plays on the left wing. Who did I watch Plymouth play? It was Luton, I think. Watched Plymouth play Luton a couple of months ago on a Friday night, and he tore Luton to shreds completely. Even the game against Sunderland, when they caused our first defeat, he really impressed me that day. So I think if you're relying on Sissoko and Whittaker, the problem Plymouth are going to have, especially that Rooney's going to have, is if you stop them two, you stop Plymouth. If you stop the wings, you stop their threat. Yeah. So if that's the case, then and is Rooney good enough to find a way around that from a tactical perspective? His previous jobs would suggest he probably isn't. So I think Plymouth, and I don't think Plymouth keep Rooney if they get relegated. So I don't think they'd want to keep Rooney if they get relegated, I should say. So yeah, if Rooney keeps Plymouth up, then you go fair enough. You go fair enough for him. It's a decent attempt. You've kept Plymouth up, and it's a second season syndrome thing with Plymouth, so it's actually probably good that he does keep them up. But yeah, I'm agreeing what Anne said, that I think if this doesn't work for him, then it's possibly curtains for a potential managerial career.
I do think it was a very un-Plymouth appointment.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Plymouth tend to be quite savvy with their appointments, don't they? The last two, is it Ian Foster they had last year? I think it is, after Schumacher. So you had him, and then you've had Wayne Rooney back to back. It didn't
work out. You could see the logic in him coming in. But with Rooney, I just don't get it. I really don't get it.
Do you know what it reminds me of then? It reminds me when Michael Beale got the Sunderland job. They must have had the interview of their lives. They must have had...
Or Steve Cooper at Leicester.
Yeah, they must have had the big spreadsheets and all the maps and everything. There we go.
But I said this about Steve Cooper. He must be one of those people who can say exactly what the interviewer wants to hear. And there'll be certain buzzwords that the interviewer's listening for.
Yeah, like a checklist of what they want.
Yeah, and it's like...
tick in the box, tick in the box, tick in the box. Yeah. No, I know what you mean. They've checked all the boxes and then they end up not being very good. So, yeah, with Rooney, it is a big one. It is a big one. Well, I'll tell you what then. To think into the relegation battle, because we've gone on for about over 2 hours at this point.
A lot of that was me slandering Coventry.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it kind of was. About a good 15 minutes of it was Ant having the time of his life.
I had good fun anyway.
Yeah. Well, what I was going to ask, all right then. Let's call this. Who do you reckon, if you had to put a hat on 3 teams to go down to League One at this point?
I think Hull's one of them. I kind of do worry about Hull now that it is because
Tim Walter.
Yeah, Hull's going to be. I think Portsmouth could just go as well. And if I had my shot on it, the last team, Cardiff will be fine.
Yeah, I think Cardiff will do all right. I think Cardiff will be. I think Cardiff, Luton, I would say, and probably Preston. I think we'll all do.
I'm biased towards more Preston and Luton. I think Luton may find a way, but I think Preston's the one. Yeah.
See, for me, if I had to pin my hat on the 3 to go down, because if I was to touch on them, I think Cardiff obviously had a good spell after Bullet left, and then it's kind of catching up with them a little bit. But I think I'm with you. I think Cardiff will do enough to keep themselves out of trouble. I think Luton will start to pull away a bit, whether it's because Rob Edwards improves them or they sack Edwards and get somebody else in. I think Luton, one way or another, will get better. I think with Hull, I'm not convinced with their squad, but I've got a funny feeling. I don't know. It's a hard one. Yeah, I suppose I would say Portsmouth. I fancied Portsmouth to do the best of the promoted teams when they came up. But I'm not going to lie, the longer it goes on without... I mean, to be fair, they did win before the international break against Preston, so it was a massive victory for them, but I'm wondering about Portsmouth from a consistency point of view, because we've had enough games now since they had the tough start they did. And I would have wanted to see them maybe be about 4 or 5 points better off than where they are at the minute. I think with QPR in particular, I think if QPR, I know they've got players out injured, but is it going to be too late for them by the time they come back to make a real push? And I do like Marty Cifuentes, but I've got a feeling this might be a bigger challenge than what last year was in terms of keeping them up. If I had to pin... Portsmouth's a funny one. Again, if they keep getting wins at home, nick points on the road, and beat teams around them, then they've got every hope. But if I had to guess right now, because I'm wondering about Oxford. I don't know whether Oxford are going to drop into it.
I don't think they will. I think they'll probably be fine. I think they'll be just about fine.
I hope so, because I quite like Oxford.
Yeah.
But if I had to make a guess, I'd say QPR be one of them. I've got a sneaky gut feeling it's one of Plymouth or Hull. I think one of them is going to go. I'm going to go Plymouth. I'm going to go Plymouth. I'd back Hull more than I'd back Plymouth. And again, I like Plymouth. I know a couple of lads. I know a couple of lads online who are decent Plymouth fans. But I think I'm not convinced by Rooney. And I think if a lot of the tactic is Sissoko and Whittaker down the wings, if you stop that, you stop Plymouth. Apparently, by the looks of it, and their away form really concerns me. I say QPR, Plymouth, and I'm going to go out on a whim. One of Portsmouth or Oxford. Which one, I'm not sure. I'd back... Right. All jokes aside, I don't think Norwich will be... I mean, look, the league... Again, we have to caveat with the fact the league is 4 points from 11th down to 22nd. It's so tight. But there will gradually be a point where I think teams start to pull away and you'll start to see more of what you expect to see. Yeah, I'll go with QPR, Plymouth, and sod it, Pompey.
Okay.
I think Oxford might have just... I think Portsmouth, the only thing I'm thinking about them is a confidence perspective as to how much has their confidence been knocked by their start of the season, even though they won the last game. But I'm not saying these predictions with a great degree of certainty, because the league is going to change. I don't know if Anne's got any thoughts but that's probably what I would get for me. I think in terms of when we talked about Plymouth and Hull, I'm not convinced by Tim Walter, and I think Hull's squad is miles, to be kind of understandably, miles worse than last season given the quality that they lost. But I would fancy Hull to just do enough to keep themselves up.
Yeah. I want to jokingly say Cov, but I don't believe it. So I'm going to go with...
You're going to go with a banter answer and a serious answer.
I think QPR, I think they're giving themselves too much of a mountain to climb. And like you, Michael, I rate Cifuentes, but you can't give yourself that much of a mountain.
Well, as I said, if they get the players back from injury, how long is that going to take and how big the gap's going to be? You know what I mean?
Yeah. So QPR, I think Plymouth, as you say, if you shut down their wings, you're playing against nothing, really. And then it's that last spot's the big question for me. So I'll go with I'll go with Pompey, but I'm not convinced on that last spot.
A lot of it's tight to call, isn't it? Because I mean, on paper, you look at Plymouth's position, for example, and they're 18th, and you go, "Whoa, wow, happy days!" But then you realise they're 1 point above 22nd.
Yeah.
So, like, with no certainty. I mean, even to be fair, you look at the likes of, say Sheffield Wednesday are 3 points above the bottom three, but with Danny Roll, I don't see them. I think Sheffield Wednesday will be looking more towards top half than bottom three. I'm not saying they'll finish there, but I think they'll be closer. I think they'll be closer to that sort of bracket than what they will be the bottom three.
Yeah,
Preston, I think Heckenbottom's good enough to keep them out of it. Yeah, it's. I've never known the championship be this close, like at the bottom, like from half of the bloody league. Like it was separated by 5 points. Is mental.
I think it's gone from one extreme last year where you had teams running away with it with I think between the top three, wasn't there, like a 15.
Between Southampton and fourth, because I only know this because I did a show the other night and I said this, between West Brom in fifth and Southampton in fourth, there was a 12-point gap between the two teams.
Yeah, and then there was like that midfield pack, wasn't there? And then the absolute dross, not very good pack.
Pretty much. But yeah, no, I think. Is there any? I mean, I suppose the only thing to take from the championship this year is just how much closer the league seems to be overall. Obviously, you're going to have teams that are going to do much better than others. For example, like, if I was to go from a really cynical point of view, say Leeds are 14 points above the bottom. Sorry, 14 points above the bottom three. Sunderland are 16 points above the bottom three. But joking aside, like, yeah. I know, Karl. It's depressing when you look at it like that.
I'm not thinking like that because because by the time we get to 50 points, we're out of the relegation battle, so that's us done.
Yeah, but yeah, the main thing I've took from the championship is it's just the league is just so much. It's so much of a much for muchness this year as opposed to last year. Like Anne said, you had teams at the top running away with it. You had a couple of teams down the bottom, like Rotherham, for example, who were well cut adrift of everybody else. Yeah, there you go. There's a dig for Anne because I know how much he loves Rotherham.
I know.
But yeah. Oh, I don't know. It's just a tight division. It is a tight division.
Listen, the championship is one of the divisions in probably the whole world you don't predict on everything because you're not going to get everything right. So
expect the unexpected. In other words,
hold on, can we just stop a second? Rotherham are 17th in League One.
Yeah.
I didn't know this. I thought they were going to be. I'll be honest, I don't follow League One.
No, they've not started well in League One. Oh my God! Do you know what? I think Ant's just. You know what Ant's going to be like, right? Say Leicester just scraped 17. You'll think, oh well, that was a bit of a shit season, but we stayed up. Hang on, Coventry finished 21st. Hang on, Rotherham finished 20th in League One. Oh, I feel a lot better now.
Rotherham are just. I've got nothing against Rotherham, I had nothing against Rotherham until last season.
You had nothing against Rotherham until you played them. You had
until
nothing against them until you played them.
Fans were moaning at us celebrating, and then from there.
Was it a man and his dog who complained against you, or was it,
No, wasn't it something to do with the fact that it was like, they had a £100 million bench, or they had a £200 million team, and look at us, Rotherham
what
and all that.
Was one of their fans said, "Oh, you couldn't even beat us with your starting 11," and I was like, "I know, we had to turn to our £85 million bench or something like that."
Forgot about that. Listen, it would be good for you if they got relegated to League Two.
It'd be fucking hilarious.
For me, the really funny bit would be if Birmingham didn't get promoted.
I don't mind Birmingham, but it would be funny just for they spend.
Well, as you know, but my dislike for Birmingham started when they acted all arrogant when Joe Bellingham came to Sunderland and acted like it was a sideways move. When, if anything, it's turned out to be a step up.
I know. And now you got Jay Stansford, you pay £10 million for full.
I will say this, mine. Birmingham could be screwed if they don't get promoted.
I know. That's why I'm saying it now. It's a big thing.
But I think they've started to notice that when teams raise their game against you and treat you like a cup final, it's not the cakewalk you think it is. It should be. With Birmingham's squad, it should be, but it's not. It won't be because teams will raise their game against them. Northampton last week proved it. So,
saying that, though, they've got a game in hand. If they win their game in hand, they go top of the league.
Well, that is true. I do think Birmingham will go up, to be fair, but I just think it would be quite amusing if they didn't, and because they're giving it all the big and acting. Oh God, I know. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of Birmingham. Put it that way. I'm not a big fan of Wigan either, to be honest. So it'd be quite funny if they got relegated.
I don't mind Wigan. They have really nice kebabs outside the ground.
You might have a point with
That's
that. Maybe not
my
being
only
female.
experience of Wigan away.
Yeah.
had
I
a
think it
very-
was more because, and again, it's more the year we both got promoted from League One. They signed a few players that we got rid of, and they started giving it the big in towards Sunderland. I'm like, oh, no, just piss off. Like your rivals are Bolton are much bigger than you, man. Shut up.
They are literally a rugby town, aren't they? Though.
Yeah,
thought you
well,
got-
at least the rugby town itself has won at least 4 trophies in 1 year compared to when Wigan's won the FA Cup. That's it.
To be fair, Wigan have won the FA Cup. You can't knock it.
Yeah, to be fair, it was against Man City in the final. I'll give them that. To be fair though, I'm surprised. Ant missed a trick there. I thought he was going to go. Well, Wigan's a rugby town. Their grounds used for rugby. A bit like someone else down the road from me.
Well, Coventry isn't a rugby city because there's an ice hockey team that's quite successful.
That's true.
There's a cricket team that ain't too bad. There's also a shit football team that sacked their manager.
I was surprised it. I think we probably need to wrap this up.
I do. We've
probably been going on for 2 hours and 17 minutes.
All hell goes loose. Yeah.
Oh God, this has been all over the place, but it's been brilliant. I've
loved it.
It's been worth it more because, to be quite honest, we knew this was going to be a longer show. But without Ad, you, me, and Annie get through the show within, let's say, a good hour.
Yeah,
at least.
and then of course Anson and then goes like, right, so I'll talk about the championship. 5 minutes later, right, first Coventry dig. 10 minutes later, next Coventry dig.
Yeah, we've learnt that now, and that's why I think we've not had him on as much this year because he would have fucked us over till at least till.
I'll tell you what. One last question I'll ask Ant before we wrap it up. FA Cup third round, Coventry versus Nottingham Forest. Who do you want to lose more?
I don't care as long as they both lose.
That's what the answer. You can't. That's what the answer. You can't.
Okay, then,
I would rather Coventry win because they've got fuck all chance of doing anything in the competition, even if they win. Forest are actually a semi-competent team that could compete towards the last.
I mean, to be honest, as long as Newcastle don't win either cup, I don't care.
Yeah, but the thing is, I wouldn't mind Cov getting to Wembley again, so I can see tears down Wembley way. So I'll go with Cov.
Cov versus Leicester FA Cup semi-final.
Oh, could you imagine the East Midlands police for that?
Oh no, one better. The final.
It would be their first sellout of the season.
Do you know what would be carnage in the Championship? If, say, we didn't get top 2, Middlesbrough versus Sunderland at Wembley in the playoff final.
Oh, fuck. Oh, that's going to be carnage.
Because you will travel down the night before, don't you?
Yeah.
Well, I'd like to travel down the night before. When we beat Wickham in the League One playoff final, I ended up going there and back on a day. And I think I want to make a weekend of it if we get to Wembley again. But hopefully we get top 2, and I'm not worried about Wembley.
It's going to be West Yorkshire, all the Yorkshire police force down there, along with the Teesside police force, all that stuff. Yeah,
Teesside, Wearside, everything. Oh my God! I'd hang on. I'm just because I'm sure 2 seasons ago, the year you came down. Well, yeah, you both came down actually, but then our first year in the Championship. I'm pretty sure there was a real prospect of Middlesbrough and Sunderland at the end of that season getting the playoff final. That same weekend, Newcastle were playing at Chelsea on the final day of the Premier League.
Oh, God,
so it could be Newcastle, Sunderland, and Middlesbrough fans all invading London.
I don't forget about that. Yeah.
Oh my God! If that happened, I would have literally felt for any one of the police force having to work that weekend.
You'll definitely be booking time off for that weekend if you're a copper.
Absolutely.
You're right. Good get out of the country for a good few days or two. Just like
Well, anyway, Karl, thanks for doing this, and thanks for getting on and suggesting. It was a good show.
It's a good show, and it, like I said, it will be uploaded. Like I said, because we did record the show, we thought, what the hell, So it will be uploaded.
We'll just go with the flow.
We'll go with the flow as always. But thank you both to you guys, and also thank you to Annie who had to leave earlier on. I thought she did have to finish earlier on, but I'm going to do one serious though. I have now moved away from the Twitter after the controversy, but you guys can find me on Blue Sky at Karl Edwards -Levy at B Sky Social if you want to sign up. At least the one big is at least not all the algorithms are coming around here when Elon Musk is popping on your screen every so often.
I love it.
But no, I enjoyed it, thanks. And like I said, we'll be back live next Sunday to when the international break is done to do the live championship match day 16. There's some big games next weekend as well too. So hopefully there'll be some tasty ones we can chat. And hopefully Ant might not be joining us, depending on where he is. He might be back to his social life next weekend.
We play
Probably is.
Chelsea on Sunday, so sadly not.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Mhm.
What if imagine if Drewsbury Hall score against you on next Sunday?
It wouldn't surprise me, but the more surprising thing is he gets on the pitch if that happens. No, I like Dewsbury Hall, but it had Danny Drinkwater written all over it from the moment he happened. You know what I say about Archie Gray not being top 4 player yet?
Yeah.
I think Dewsbury Hall's in that same category. Very good player, not a top 4 player.
Yep. Well, yeah. Who will do better out them two for the next few years? Him or Gray or Dewsbury Hall?
Gray for me because Gray's much younger.
Yeah. And Dewsbury Hall, yeah, he's all got a chance to earn a few bob to make sure he has a good retirement life. So
Yeah, it's one of those. Good luck to the kid. Good luck to the bloke. We got 35 million.
yeah, have you spent all that 35 million yet? Because you still haven't got the bloody, especially financial play was on your ass.
FFP is not a problem now, but the biggest problem is Steve Cooper. I think we should use that money to get rid of Steve Cooper.
Oh, and on that bombshell, let's end the show as well. Thank you very much, guys, as usual. We'll see you at the same time next week. Take it for now. Bye-bye.